Chapter 1229. Wuxia Xianxia had been in charge of Sky Demon Palace for so many years that he was no idiot, so he knew what was going on the moment he saw Ming Xuanyu's head. Wuxia Xianxia was forcing him to abdicate. Yuan Kongcheng. How dare you act first and report later? I'm not dead yet, and you're already so eager to take this position? Yuan Kongcheng shook his head helplessly at the furious Wuxia Xianxia. Palace Lord. Martial Uncle. The eastern and southern regions will soon be in chaos, and the blissful Devil Palace will definitely participate in the war against the eastern region. If the blissful Devil Palace gains some benefits from the war, and their strength increases greatly, do you think they will spare our heavenly Devil Palace? Sky Demon Palace has always been the orthodox demonic path, not blissful Demon Palace. Chu Xiu chimed in, Left Palace Lord, in this pugilistic world, if you don't kill others, others will kill you. You should know better than me what kind of people blissful Demon Palace is. Strike first and gain the upper hand. Wuxia Xianxia immediately turned his gaze towards Chu Xiu. Instantly, a powerful oppressive might belonging to a martial immortal descended upon him. However, Chu Xiu actually withstood it, and there was only a slight change in his expression. This caused Wuxia Xianxia to feel slightly surprised. You're the one who incited Yuan Kongcheng to destroy blissful Demon Palace. Do you really think I won't dare to kill you just because you're the successor of a prime sovereign and the prefectural governor of the Imperial Sky Pavilion? Chu Xiu said indifferently, Left Palace Lord, I'm not a 3-year-old child, so there's no point in bluffing. You really won't dare to kill me. Ming Xuanyu is already dead, and if word gets out, blissful Demon Palace and Sky Demon Palace will definitely fight. Left Palace Lord, if you touch me at this time, it's equivalent to offending the Imperial Sky Pavilion and a prime sovereign. Left Palace Lord, you've been in charge of Sky Demon Palace for so many years, so I think you should be able to distinguish such simple interests. Wuxia Xianxia was immediately silenced by Chu Xiu's words. Strike first and report later. What else could he do now that Ming Xuanyu had already killed him? After a short while, Wuxia Xianxia sighed and said, Perhaps I'm really old, or perhaps I've been trapped in the Sky Devil Palace for too long, and I've lost my drive. Sky City and Sky Demon Palace will be yours in the future. If you want to do these things, go ahead and do them. But you also need to know that sometimes what you need to be in charge of a top sect is not a very strong leader. The stronger one was, the more things one could do, and the more one did, the more mistakes one would make. You think that the Heavenly Demon Palace is very strong, but in reality, a small mistake could cause the Heavenly Demon Palace to decline. Yuan Kongcheng nodded solemnly. This was Wuxia Xianxia's opinion, not his. Although he did not approve of it, he would still abide by it, because he was currently not the palace master of the Heavenly Demon Palace. Walking out of the hall, Yuan Kongcheng solemnly said, You should tell me your plan now. I've paid such a huge price to cooperate with you. I hope that you won't disappoint me in the end. A smile appeared on Chu Xiu's face, and he said, Don't worry, those who have cooperated with me, Chu Xiu, have never been disappointed. Actually, the plan is very simple. Palace Master Yuan, have you ever heard of the saying, those who commit too much evil will bring about their own destruction? Yuan Kongcheng was a little confused, and he asked, What do you mean? Chu Xiu narrowed his eyes and said, What I mean is that the blissful Demon Palace has committed many evil deeds, and their methods are extremely vile. Not only did they kill innocent people, they even used their bodies and souls to carry out those cruel experiments, which goes against the laws of heaven and earth. This kind of evil is something that everyone has the right to punish, but because of the power of the blissful Demon Palace in the past, everyone dared not voice their anger. But now, with the Heavenly Demon Palace taking the lead, what do you think they will do? So, Palace Master Yuan, there are only 2 things you need to do. One is to use the power of the Heavenly Demon Palace to instigate the martial sects of the entire southern region to be hostile towards the blissful Demon Palace. I can arrange the specific details in secret. The second is when the conflict has reached its peak, and when everyone publicly attacks the blissful demon palace, the heavenly demon palace will raise a call to exterminate the blissful demon palace under the banner of the orthodox demonic path. Although they are all demons, the blissful demon palace is evil. For the prosperity and long-term peace of the southern region, the demonic demons of the blissful demon palace must die. Shang Tianliang was a little dumbfounded when he heard this. Wasn't what Chu Xiu said the things that the righteous martial sects of the lower world had done to him? Evil demons? Are you sure you're not talking about yourself? Chu Xiu was regarded as a demon by the people of the lower world, and had been killed many times by the alliance of the righteous martial sects of the lower world. Now, he was saying that others were evil demons and wanted to exterminate them in the Daoist society. No matter how Shang Tianliang looked at it, it was a little awkward. Yuan Kongqing was also a little stunned, because he had never heard of such a method. The lower world was divided into righteous and demonic sects, but the Daoist did not. Taoism, Buddhism, Diabolism, Sword Clan, and so on were just one of the many Daoist cultivation forces. There was no difference between them. There was no such thing as righteousness in the war between the various sects, only profit. Therefore, the Daoist society was actually more realistic than the society of the lower world. All conflict stemmed from profit. Now that Chu Xiu had proposed to ruin the reputation of the Bliss Demon Palace, making them the target of public criticism, no one in the Daoist had ever used such a method before. In fact, Chu Xiu had never used such a method before, but many people had used it on him. As time went by, he naturally got used to it. Yuan Kongqing sighed. You youngsters have good ideas. It's worth a try. Then, we'll do as you say. During this time, I will arrange for people to be by your side, and they will cooperate with you. But let me put it bluntly first, this cooperation is also surveillance. If you do well, then there's nothing more to say. If anything goes wrong, then don't blame me for being impolite. My Sky Demon Palace will immediately withdraw from this matter. At that time, whether the Bliss Demon Palace can let you leave the southern territory is unknown. Chu Xiu said indifferently, if I make a move, I won't lose. If I'm not confident, I won't make a move. In the Mayfly County of the southern region, Chu Xiu had changed into a black robe without any patterns. He wore the mask he wore to fool the Black Luo tribe. He stood in the middle of the dense forest, sizing up the nearby official road. Beside Chu Xiu, Shang Tianliang didn't disguise himself. As he hadn't fought many times, the people of the southern territory wouldn't be able to recognize him. Behind them stood a middle-aged man in a black brocade robe. He had the strength of the heaven and earth profound insight realm. He was sent by Yuan Kongqing to assist Chu Xiu, or rather, to monitor Chu Xiu. He was the acting elder of Sky Demon Palace, Xing Bugong. Elder Xing, that Wang Yizhi you mentioned should be here soon, right? Chu Xiu suddenly asked. Xing Bugong nodded. I'm 90% sure. My Sky Demon Palace's information isn't wrong. Although Xing Bugong didn't understand why the Vice Palace Lord would cooperate with a junior from the Eastern Territory, and even let him lead the plan, Xing Bugong was famous in Sky Demon Palace for his ability to carry out tasks. He would have doubts, and he would even have doubts. But he would always follow orders and complete every task assigned to him. That was why Yuan Kongqing had sent him to assist Chu Xiu. Just as Xing Bugong finished speaking, a cultivator shrouded in a straw raincoat walked over from the end of the road. He had the cultivation of the true fire spirit refinement realm. Although he looked battered, he looked very young, only in his 30s. However, his face was pale, as if he was injured. Xing Bugong sighed. He's Wang Yizhi. Speaking of which, he's a pitiful person. Although his Wang family isn't famous in the Southern Territory, his talent isn't bad. He can even stand shoulder to shoulder with those geniuses from the top sections. It's a pity that he was young and flamboyant. Because he showed off a rare herb, the ghost face flower, he was targeted by the blissful demon palace, which led to the Wang family's annihilation. After that, Wang Yizhi wandered the southern territory, trying his best to cause trouble for the blissful demon palace. But with his strength, he couldn't even touch the blissful demon palace's sore spot. In the past, he was good friends with many young disciples from the big sects in the southern territory. But when something happened, those people all hid far away. This person has experienced the fickleness of the world. Pitiful, really pitiful. Chu Xiu said indifferently, pitiful? Elder Xing, I'm sure you're not from the bottom of the pugilistic world. You either grew up in Sky Demon Palace or came from a big clan. Oh? How do you know? Xing Bugong was a little surprised. Chu Xiu had guessed correctly. He had indeed grown up in Sky Demon Palace, and his parents were disciples of Sky Demon Palace. It's simple. If someone rose from the bottom of the pugilistic world, he wouldn't be pitiful. All living things suffer, and there are many people in this world who are more pitiful than him. This Wang Yizhi only has hatred in his heart, but some people can't even afford to die. Who in this world isn't pitiful? Xing Bugong choked on Chu Xiu's words. Although he wanted to deny it, he didn't know what to say. So he changed the topic and asked, since this Wang Yizhi isn't the most pitiful, why did young Master Chu choose him? Chu Xiu shrugged and said, let fate decide. Among the information you gave me, this guy is the most eye-catching and the most active. The key to the plan isn't Wang Yizhi, but me, Chu Xiu. So, in theory, as long as the conditions allow, even if I choose a dog to stand in front of me, my plan will still succeed. Xing Bugong choked on Chu Xiu's words again. At this time, Shang Tianliang suddenly said in a deep voice, the people from Blissful Demon Palace are here. At this time, at the end of the official road, a cloud of black fog swept over. The black fog dissipated, and what appeared in front of Wang Yizhi were two Blissful Demon Palace martial artists with strength at the peak of true fire spirit refinement realm. One of them wielded a crescent moon devil saber and sneered, Wang Yizhi, you're really tired of living. The Wang family is already dead, and you're lucky to be alive, but you still have to come out and cause trouble. Do you know why our Blissful Demon Palace didn't send anyone to kill you all these years, even though we knew you weren't dead? Because we couldn't be bothered. To our Blissful Demon Palace, you're not even an ant. Giving you a kill order is already giving you face. But this time, you actually killed Elder Gongsuan's grandson. Very well, you've successfully infuriated our Blissful Demon Palace. Since you want to die, our Blissful Demon Palace will fulfill your wish. Chapter 1230. The power of hatred was great. It could make people stronger, but it could also make them crazy. Wang Yizhi was exactly like that. Just like what that cultivator from the Bliss Demon Palace had said, why didn't the Bliss Demon Palace completely eradicate him back then? It was because Wang Yizhi was too weak. He was so weak that this matter didn't even reach the ears of the palace lord, Yan Beifeng. Therefore, all these years, Wang Yizhi had been thinking of ways to cause trouble for the Bliss Demon Palace and kill their disciples. However, the impact on the Bliss Demon Palace was only equivalent to being bitten by a mosquito. If Wang Yizhi hadn't gone overboard this time, killing the grandson of an elder from the Bliss Demon Palace, the matter definitely wouldn't have gotten this big. His hatred made him give up on the idea of fighting in the other three domains and drag out an ignoble existence. He started to attack the Bliss Demon Palace's disciples in a frenzy. Perhaps from that day onwards, Wang Yizhi already had the will to die. Wang Yizhi pulled out the long sword at his waist. His eyes flickered with a crazed killing intent, as well as a hint of despair. Bliss Demon Palace. I, Wang Yizhi, will fight you to the death in my next life. As soon as he finished speaking, Wang Yizhi actually took the initiative to charge forward and fight the two from the Bliss Demon Palace. However, his strength was inferior to the two, and he had also suffered some injuries. Now that they were fighting intensely, he was already in danger in less than 10 moves. Shang Tianliang, who was watching from afar, poked Chu Xiu. "You're still not going to make a move? If you wait any longer, this kid will be killed." Chu Xiu said indifferently, "Don't worry, he won't die. Since he wants to be a savior, he has to act like one. If we don't force him into a dead end, how will he know the beauty of living? A person who is completely consumed by hatred is crazy. Such a person is very useful, but it's easy for him to ruin things. Therefore, when we really force him into a dead end, we'll make a move to save him and let him know how precious life is. Only then will he know how to cherish life and know how to be grateful, right?" Shang Tianliang curled his lips. "Despicable. You really have a dirty heart. Is this the first time you found out?" Xing Bugong felt a little strange as he watched Chu Xiu and Shang Tianliang bicker. These two people didn't seem like subordinates, and they didn't seem like friends either. Their relationship seemed a little strange. Right at this moment, Chu Xiu glanced at the battlefield and said indifferently, "It's time for me to be the savior of the world." As soon as he finished speaking, Chu Xiu took a step forward and disappeared before the two of them. At this time, Wang Yiji's mouth and nose were bleeding, and there were 2 more wounds on his body. The long sword in his hand had long since been broken. His eyes flashed with madness, and the qi and blood around his body condensed crazily. A ferocious blood-red ghost appeared behind him, brewing a powerful force. Clearly, he was prepared to drag someone down with him before he died. However, the 2 blissful demon palace cultivators exchanged a glance and sneered at the same time. One of them made a hand seal, and 2 ghostly hands appeared under Wang Yiji's feet, grabbing his legs. In an instant, an extremely evil demonic qi flowed along his legs and covered his entire body, rendering him unable to move for a moment. At this time, one of the blissful demon palace cultivators had already slashed with his demonic saber. The extremely evil demonic qi drifted in all directions, condensing into a sharp blade that was already in front of him. Wang Yiji's face revealed a look of indignation. Even on the verge of death, he hadn't managed to kill a single person. Just as he was about to give up all hope and wait for death, a figure suddenly appeared in front of him. The figure was extremely fast, as if it had materialized out of thin air. Black hair and black robes fluttered in the wind, and the black iron mask engraved with mystical patterns made one involuntarily immersed in it, unable to extricate themselves. "Who are you?" Wang Yiji couldn't help but ask. The savior who can save you from the abyss of suffering." Chu Xiu casually extended his hand, and 2 fingers easily clamped down on the blissful demon palace cultivator's demonic saber. The blissful demon palace cultivator had a look of disbelief on his face as he cried out in shock, "Who are you?" Before he could finish speaking, Chu Xiu released the demonic saber and tapped it lightly with his finger. In an instant, the demonic saber shattered. And that wasn't the end of it. The terrifying cracks spread along the demonic saber to the blissful demon palace cultivator's body. He didn't even have the chance to scream before his body began to shatter like the demonic saber, turning into ashes in the end. Chu Xiu's gaze turned towards the other blissful demon palace cultivator. The other party was still quite vigilant and decisive. The moment Chu Xiu made his move, he had already used the blood escape secret technique. His entire body radiated a bloody glow as he fled in another direction. Chu Xiu merely waved his hand gently, and the cultivator who had been radiating a bloody glow let out a shrill cry. The bloody glow around him began to burn away at a speed 10 times faster than before. In almost an instant, the cultivator's blood and qi had been burnt away, and he had turned into a dried corpse. Wang Yiji looked at the person in front of him. There was only one impression in his mind. Powerful. Incomparably powerful. All of this seemed like a dream. This person had suddenly appeared in front of him and saved him from the despair and fear of death. He couldn't react to all of this. After a long while, Wang Yiji finally asked in a hoarse voice, "You are?" Chu Xiu shook his head and said, you don't need to ask who I am. All you need to know is that I can help you destroy the blissful demon palace. That's enough. You also don't need to worry about me using you or anything like that. Right now, what else can you use other than your life? A complicated look appeared on Wang Yiji's face. In the end, he shook his head with a bitter smile and said, "Yes, I have nothing left. My life was saved by you. Even if you really want my life, I can only hand it over to you." At this point, a deep hatred appeared on Wang Yiji's face. "But even if I die, I'll drag the blissful demon palace down with me. What do you need me to do to destroy the blissful demon palace? It's very simple. I just need you to listen to me." Chu Xiu's face was covered by the mask. Only his eyes revealed a deep look. In a secret room in the deepest part of the blissful demon palace, a shrill, angry howl came from within. When the disciples guarding outside heard the sound and sensed the aura coming from within, their faces couldn't help but turn pale. After a quarter of an hour, the door finally opened. Yan Beifeng walked out and dragged out a huge corpse. It looked like a human and a beast at the same time. However, there was a hideous human head on the huge body. Anyone who saw it would tremble with fear. The creation of the ghoul has failed. Record it down. The true spirits mixed together are too violent and can't be controlled. Forcefully controlling them will only cause the true spirit to self-destruct. Next time when creating ghouls, get the people below to find some cultivators with strong wills and silently seize their primordial spirits to use as the main true spirit of the ghouls. That's right, take care of this trash. Yan Beifeng gave some instructions to the cultivators guarding the door. With a wave of his hand, he called an old man over. He raised his eyebrows and asked, "Old man Gongsun, I asked you to investigate the cause of Ming Xuanyu's death and the destruction of the branch palace. It's been so long. Have you figured it out yet?" The old man hurriedly replied, "Palace Lord, I've already investigated. It was done by the barbarian tribes in the depths of southern China. They seem to hate our blissful demon palace to the core. More than 10 tribes joined forces and caused the entire branch palace to be completely destroyed by the barbarian tribes. No one survived." Yan Beifeng frowned and said, "Are you sure there were no outsiders involved? Ming Xuanyu told me that those barbarian tribes are just sweeping the snow in front of their door. With their brains, they shouldn't be able to play such tricks." Elder Gongsun said cautiously, "Although those barbarian tribes aren't very smart, the priests of the barbarian tribes are still very clear-headed. Previously, Palace Lord Ming Xuanyu was still careful when capturing those barbarian tribes. But recently, in order to forge the heavenly cycle demon god formation, you've already used up the corpses of many barbarian tribe experts. Palace Lord Ming Xuanyu is a little more anxious to capture the barbarian tribes. Perhaps it's because of this that the barbarian tribes joined forces and rebelled." Yan Beifeng turned his gaze to Elder Gongsun. There was no killing intent in his eyes. He asked calmly, "Elder, do you mean that it's my fault?" Elder Gongsun shuddered violently and hurriedly said, "Palace Lord, please don't misunderstand. I didn't mean that. Ming Xuanyu was careless and didn't take precautions. Everyone in the blissful demon palace knew that their palace lord was a madman. Although the past palace lords of the blissful demon palace were somewhat extreme in character, Yan Beifeng was the most extreme and crazy one. He was practically inhumane. In the blissful demon palace, his words carried enormous weight. If anyone dared to disobey him, he would immediately kill them without any hesitation. It didn't matter if the person was an elder or a palace lord. With such a superior, the entire blissful demon palace was treading on thin ice. No one dared to disobey or offend Yan Beifeng. Yan Beifeng snorted coldly and said, "Send someone to investigate again. I keep feeling that something's wrong. If it's really just a simple barbarian tribe rebellion, then I'll go to the southern barbarians. It just so happens that the materials for forging the heavenly cycle demon god formation are a little lacking." Also, old Gongsun, why do I feel that you're a little absent-minded? Did something happen in the palace again? A hint of sorrow flashed in Elder Gongsun's eyes. He said, one of my most beloved grandsons was killed by a brat who hated my blissful demon palace. I sent someone to hunt him down, but he hasn't returned yet. There must have been an accident. This was a small matter to Yan Beifeng. There were more than 1 or 2 people in the southern barbarian world who hated his blissful demon palace. So what if there were more? Therefore, Yan Beifeng only patted Elder Gongsun's shoulder and said, Old Gongsun, you're old but strong. You have many sons and even more grandsons. If one dies, you'll have a few more. Don't take such a small matter to heart. It's not your first day in the pugilistic world. Seeing Yan Beifeng leave, Elder Gongsun felt helpless. Although he knew that Yan Beifeng was comforting him, why did it sound so much like mockery? Chapter 1231. Southern Territory, Yang County, outside the blissful demon palace's branch. Chu Xiu looked at the small branch in front of him and asked Wang Yizhi beside him, is this the branch that destroyed your Wang family? Wang Yizhi's eyes flashed with hatred, that's them. Apart from a few branches of the blissful demon palace, because they needed to research evil arts and secret arts, they had quite a number of branches in the southern region. These guys are the blissful demon palace's lackeys, killing and robbing indiscriminately. They are notorious in the southern territory. Chu Xiu couldn't help but shake his head at Wang Yizhi's words. The blissful demon palace was a disgrace to the demonic Dao. Was this the demonic Dao's way of doing things? They didn't dare provoke the strong and only bullied the weak. Rather than calling it the demonic Dao, they were more like bandits. Such behavior was too petty. Then, let's start with this branch. Start what? Wang Yizhi was still confused. Start telling the southern territories Jianghu that you, Wang Yizhi, are back. Chu Xiu reached out and pushed Wang Yizhi, who was also dressed in a black robe, out. Chu Xiu and Shang Tianliang stood behind him like subordinates. The blissful demon palace's influence in the southern territory wasn't weak. Moreover, the Daoist didn't have a strict division between righteous and demonic, so the Daoist cultivators didn't have much resistance to the demonic Dao. There were many cultivators who joined the blissful demon palace, many of whom were lawless and evil. When Wang Yizhi arrived at the branch's entrance, the cultivators guarding the door felt that Wang Yizhi looked familiar. After all, they had participated in the destruction of the Wang family. As soon as Wang Yizhi appeared, they recognized him and immediately shouted, the Wang family's runaway brat is back. The 2 lords sent by Elder Gongsun to kill him have most likely met with misfortune. Wang Yizhi said coldly, they're dead. You can accompany them in hell. As soon as he finished speaking, Wang Yizhi, who had recovered from his injuries after being fed with medicinal pills by Chu Xiu, slashed out with his sword. The ruthless sword light directly beheaded the disciple guarding the door, pushed open the door of the branch, and broke in. At this time, all the martial artists in the entire branch were alarmed. There were 3 martial artists at the true fire spirit refinement realm in the entire branch. When they came out and saw Wang Yizhi, they could not believe it and sneered, Wang Yizhi, we did not go to find you, but you took the initiative to come and die. Are you trying to give us credit? Seeing these 3 people, Wang Yizhi's eyes immediately turned red. These 3 people were the culprits who destroyed his Wang family back then. Don't just stand there, say something. Chu Xiu transmitted his voice to Wang Yizhi from behind. Wang Yizhi stared blankly for a moment, then said angrily, courting death. Today, I'm here to send off your blissful devil palace. All of you evil and crooked cultivators have committed all sorts of crimes, killing innocents, robbing and plundering. How many lives have you harmed in order to cultivate evil techniques? As long as you shameless, despicable, and cunning evil spirits exist, it is an insult to my southern region. Today, I'm here for my personal vengeance, but also for the greater good. For the entire martial world of the southern region, I'm here to eradicate you evil and crooked cultivators. Beside him, Shang Tianliang looked at Chu Xiu with a strange gaze. These words were also taught to Wang Yizhi by Chu Xiu, but in the lower realm, many people had also said these words to Chu Xiu. In fact, it should be said that there were definitely many people who were secretly cursing Chu Xiu, the devil. At this time, Wang Yizhi said these righteous words with deep-rooted hatred. It seemed a little awkward, but it didn't matter. Chu Xiu couldn't expect him to be so calm in front of the murderer who killed his family. However, the martial artists from the blissful Devil Palace were dumbfounded. What was going on? Had this kid from the Wang family been provoked to the point of losing his mind? Before they could say anything, Wang Yizhi had already rushed out with his long sword in hand. The three martial artists from the blissful Devil Palace were just about to make a move when they saw the strange masked fellow behind Wang Yizhi wave his hand gently, as if he had slashed out with a saber. In the next moment, they suddenly felt pain in their bodies. Before they could investigate, the three corpses had instantly turned into a pile of minced meat. Although Wang Yizhi felt that it was a pity that he couldn't kill the murderer with his own hands. In fact, he might not even be able to kill one of them. Hence, the momentum of Wang Yizhi's sword became even more ferocious as he killed the other martial artists from the blissful Devil Palace. Wang Yizhi had killed half of the people in the blissful Devil Palace and the rest had fled. Only then did Chu Xiu say indifferently, "All right, leave the rest to pass on the message." After hearing Chu Xiu's words, Wang Yizhi finally stopped. He panted heavily and dipped the long sword in his hand into the fresh blood on the ground, leaving a line of words on the wall of the blissful Devil Palace. Hearing Chu Xiu's words, Wang Yizhi finally stopped. He took a deep breath and dipped the sword in his hand into the blood on the ground, leaving a line of words on the wall of the branch. The killer, Wang Yizhi. After everything was done, Wang Yizhi asked Chu Xiu, "Senior, what do we mean by this?" Wang Yizhi was a good executor. He didn't ask why Chu Xiu asked him to do something until now. He only asked when everything was done. Chu Xiu stood with his hands behind his back and said indifferently, "What do you mean?" It was the meaning of the words on the wall, telling the martial arts world of the southern region that Wang Yizhi was back for revenge. How could it be so easy to eliminate demons and defend the Tao? A chopstick could be easily broken, but a bunch of chopsticks could not be broken. The martial world of the southern region had been in the Devil Palace of Extreme Bliss for a long time, but there had never been a leader to bring them together. What you need to do is to make a name for yourself and unite the scattered sand. Gather the righteous people of the southern region to eliminate the demons and defend the Tao, and eradicate the Devil Palace of Extreme Bliss. Wang Yizhi nodded in understanding. He suddenly felt that what he had done all these years was like child's play compared to this senior. He used to be a young elite of the pugilistic world of the southern region. He had potential, but he was too naive. Later on, he encountered a disaster. Although he turned his potential into strength under the influence of hatred and quickly reached the true fire spirit cultivation realm, his temperament did not keep up. This senior was skilled in setting up a trap to eliminate the Devil Palace of Extreme Bliss. He was definitely a righteous person with great experience in this aspect. However, there was one thing that Chu Xiu didn't tell him. A chopstick could not be broken, but a sword could. Southern Region, Zhongyuan Prefecture, Heaven Square Tower. This place was the center of the entire southern region, but it didn't belong to any particular faction. Instead, it belonged to all the factions in the southern region. In the beginning, the entire southern region was filled with danger and danger. Information was extremely important to everyone. Therefore, the Zhongyuan Prefecture, which was located in the center of the southern region, became the place where all the factions in the southern region shared information. Heaven Square Tower was the largest restaurant in the southern region, and it was also the place where information was openly sold. At this moment, many cultivators were whispering to each other in Heaven Square Tower. "Have you heard? A branch of the Devil Palace of Extreme Bliss was destroyed in public. I've heard about it for a long time. This matter has almost spread throughout the southern region. That Wang Yizhi of the Wang family is a ruthless person. He publicly destroyed a branch of the Devil Palace of Extreme Bliss and even dared to leave his name. Sigh, the Devil Palace of Extreme Bliss has gone overboard. Back then, they destroyed the entire Wang family for a ghost-faced flower. That Wang Yizhi is really courageous. He actually didn't choose to flee to the other 3 regions. Instead, he chose to come back for revenge. Just as everyone was discussing, someone came over and said, "Sai, we're all of the demonic path, but look at Sky Demon Palace." Although Sky Demon Palace is still overbearing, they are reasonable. Say, we're all of the demonic path, but why is there such a huge difference in the way they conduct themselves? This cultivator's words were subtly belittling the Devil Palace of Extreme Bliss and praising Sky Demon Palace. In reality, he was indeed a member of Sky Demon Palace and was commonly known as a shill. At this moment, a few cultivators from the Devil Palace of Extreme Bliss walked in and said angrily, "All of you, shut up. How dare you spread rumors about the Devil Palace of Extreme Bliss? Are you tired of living?" As one of the top sects in the southern region, the small sects that were inferior to the Devil Palace of Extreme Bliss wouldn't dare to spread rumors about them if the people from the Devil Palace of Extreme Bliss showed up. One of the cultivators from the Devil Palace of Extreme Bliss took out a portrait of Wang Yizhi and said coldly, "If anyone from the southern region has seen this person, report to the Devil Palace of Extreme Bliss, and you'll be rewarded handsomely. On the other hand, if someone tries to cover up for him, I'm sure everyone here is aware of the means of the Devil Palace of Extreme Bliss. There's no need to look for me. I, Wang Yizhi, am right here." At this moment, a cold voice was heard. Wang Yizhi walked into the building in a dignified manner. The moment they saw Wang Yizhi, even the cultivators from the Devil Palace of Extreme Bliss were stunned. They never expected that Wang Yizhi would be so arrogant. He actually dared to appear before them. Before they could react, Wang Yizhi had already made his move. However, he didn't use a sword this time. Instead, he used a seal technique. It was a Buddhist seal technique. As the seal descended, the space around it distorted. It was Chu Xiu's colorless sealing palm seal. Wang Yizhi's martial arts had seemed a little lame to Chu Xiu. Although he had reached the true fire spiritual refinement realm, he wasn't considered strong due to his martial arts techniques. He could only be said to have rich combat experience. Hence, Chu Xiu had imparted some martial arts to him so that he could keep up appearances. The leading cultivator from the Devil Palace of Extreme Bliss was at the true fire spiritual refinement realm. But before he could do anything, Wang Yizhi suddenly disappeared before his eyes. He subconsciously looked around. But at this time, the colorless sealing palm seal had directly crushed his protective spiritual qi, killing him completely. At the same time, Wang Yizhi unsheathed his longsword and killed the rest of the cultivators from the Devil Palace of Extreme Bliss with a few slashes. This extremely agile scene made everyone present gasp in amazement. But in the Heavenly Square Tower, some of the more experienced older generation cultivators looked behind Wang Yizhi. Wang Yizhi's seal technique was indeed strong, but that blissful Devil Palace martial artist's performance was just passable. He actually fell into a daze at the critical moment. This was a mistake that even a low-level martial artist shouldn't make. The person behind Wang Yizhi wasn't ordinary. Chapter 1232. Some people could guess that there was an expert behind Wang Yizhi, but Chu Xiu didn't mind. As long as these people didn't cause him trouble, he couldn't be bothered with them. Wang Yizhi stood in front of everyone. To be honest, he was still a little nervous. Although he had experienced many things and wasn't the inexperienced junior he used to be, it was still his first time standing in front of so many people in the martial world. However, when he thought of what Chu Xiu had taught him, Wang Yizhi maintained a solemn expression and said in a low voice, everyone knows what happened to the Wang family. The Wang family was killed by the demons from the Bliss Demon Palace. I could have left if I were alive. With my strength, I could have made a name for myself in the other 3 regions. But I didn't leave. Why? Because of personal vengeance, but also because of righteousness. The Bliss Demon Palace wreaked havoc in the southern region, and the Wang family wasn't the only one who suffered. Among all of you, who hasn't been bullied or threatened by the Bliss Demon Palace? The Bliss Demon Palace bullies the weak and fears the strong. They don't attack the major sects, but they only attack the small clans and sects like us. The major sects are indifferent, but can't we save ourselves? I've come back this time to join forces with the people of the martial world in the southern region to eradicate the demons and uphold justice. After saying these righteous words, Wang Yizhi left without any hesitation. This was what Chu Xiu had taught him. One mustn't be too hasty in doing things. The seeds had already been planted. The rest could be done slowly. A few days later, the things that Wang Yizhi had done and said in the Square Sky Tower had already spread throughout the entire southern region. It had also caused quite a commotion. After all, very few people had dared to provoke the Bliss Demon Palace in the southern region for such a long time. It could even be said that they had challenged the Bliss Demon Palace. Among the major sects in the southern region, apart from the Supreme Sword sect, the Bliss Demon Palace didn't dare to fight them head-on. The Bliss Demon Palace was confident in fighting the other major sections. Therefore, all these years, as long as the Blissful Demon Palace didn't cross the bottom line of the other large sects, those large sects naturally wouldn't meddle in other people's business and provoke the Blissful Demon Palace. As for the other forces in the martial arts world, even if they hated the Blissful Demon Palace, who would dare to provoke them when the Blissful Demon Palace's ruthless methods were right in front of them? Who would have thought that this time, someone would dare to touch the Blissful Devil Palace's tiger whiskers? In the Blissful Demon Palace, Elder Gongsun was looking at the news from the martial world with anger and worry. Elder Gongsun could be considered as the oldest heaven and earth mystic illuminating realm expert in the Blissful Devil Palace. When the previous palace lord was still alive, he was in charge of some miscellaneous affairs in the Blissful Devil Palace. All news regarding the Blissful Demon Palace in the martial world would first be sent to Elder Gongsun. Then, when there was something he couldn't handle, he would hand it over to Yan Beifeng. According to the information, the murderer who killed his grandson had finally appeared. However, what Wang Yizhi had said and done made him shudder. He had a bad feeling about this. Elder Gongsun wanted to look for Yan Beifeng to talk about this matter, but Yan Beifeng was currently in seclusion. He wasn't in seclusion to cultivate, but to study his heavenly cycle demon god formation. This formation was something that Yan Beifeng had figured out himself. Strictly speaking, it wasn't a formation. Instead, it was a combination of formations, martial arts, weapon forging, primordial spirit secret skills, and various secret skills of the Blissful Demon Palace. When Yan Beifeng was in seclusion, Elder Gongsun could still look for him. However, if he were to disturb Yan Beifeng when he was refining the heavenly cycle demon god formation, he would really die. Therefore, Elder Gongsun could only sigh and order all the cultivators in the Blissful Demon Palace to search for Wang Yizhi. At this time, Wang Yizhi was running around the southern region with Chu Xiu, meeting the patriarchs and sect leaders of various forces. The information that Xing Bugong had found for Chu Xiu was very comprehensive. It seemed like the Sky Demon Palace had done a lot of research on the Blissful Demon Palace. The information contained all the cultivators that had a feud with the Blissful Demon Palace over the years. Changshan County's Zhao family. When Chu Xiu brought Wang Yizhi and broke into the Zhao family's mansion silently, they suddenly appeared in front of the Zhao family's family head, giving him a huge fright. "Uncle Zhao, long time no see." Wang Yizhi greeted him calmly. The other party had done business with the Wang family in the past, and their relationship was considered pretty good. The Zhao family head exclaimed, "Yizhi, do you want to die? The Blissful Demon Palace is hunting you down in the entire southern region, and you still dare to wander around? Hunting me down? Uncle Zhao, it is the blissful demon palace that is hunting me down now. However, it is uncertain who will be hunting who in the future. Wang Yizhi said in a deep voice, Uncle Zhao, you should know why I came looking for you. Back then, Brother Zhao had a conflict with the blissful devil palace because of a small matter. In the end, your cultivation was crippled by the other party in a tyrannical manner, causing Brother Zhao to commit suicide. You're also going to die before your son. Don't you want to take revenge? The Zhao family head fell silent. He smiled bitterly and said, Of course I want to, but it is the blissful demon palace. How can we do that? There are countless people that have a feud with the blissful demon palace in the southern region. If one can't defeat them, then 10. If 10 can't defeat them, then 100. The Zhao family head was still a little hesitant. At that moment, Chu Xiu suddenly said, Are you worried about Yan Beifeng, a martial immortal expert? We are fighting the blissful demon palace to uphold justice, not to seek death. Someone will deal with Yan Beifeng. In this pugilistic world, there are far more people that want to destroy the blissful demon palace than you can imagine. Who is this? Wang Yizhi said in a deep voice, This senior also has a feud with the blissful demon palace. He also wants to return peace to the southern region. We have more than just a few people here. The Zhao family head had heard from others that Wang Yizhi had returned for revenge. There seemed to be a few people with him. It was an expert with a mysterious identity. It seemed to be this person. The Zhao family head was a veteran. His intuition told him that things weren't as simple as they seemed. So, he didn't want to agree to it for now. Chu Xiu said calmly, It is normal for Zhao family head to have concerns. In a month's time, we will have a gathering. I hope Zhao family head will come. We will inform Zhao family head of the location. With that, Chu Xiu and Wang Yizhi left. After all, the other party was the blissful demon palace. Chu Xiu didn't expect the Zhao family head to agree on the spot. After that, Chu Xiu and Wang Yizhi went to dozens of factions. Most of them were hesitant like the Zhao family head. There were also those who had a deep feud with the blissful demon palace. Some agreed immediately, while others rejected without hesitation. No matter what kind of people they were, Chu Xiu only gave them a time and a location. He gave them a month to decide. A month later, all the family heads and sect heads received news from Wang Yizhi. The meeting would be held in a huge mansion in the Zhongyuan prefecture. A month ago, Wang Yizhi caused such a huge commotion in the Zhongyuan prefecture. As the center of the southern region, there were many blissful demon palace martial artists coming and going. In the end, Wang Yizhi still chose to appear here. This was simply audacious. Inside the mansion, all the doors and windows were sealed. It was dark, with only a faint light. The family heads and sect heads of dozens of factions were here, discussing in whispers. In the next moment, the lights suddenly lit up, and Wang Yizhi and Chu Xiu appeared in the room. Some sharp-eyed people noticed that Chu Xiu had always been following behind Wang Yizhi. This time, however, it was Wang Yizhi following behind Chu Xiu. In front of the people of the pugilistic world, Wang Yizhi had to take the lead. This was because the martial artists of the southern region only knew Wang Yizhi. Everyone knew about his background and the feud between him and the blissful demon palace. Hence, he had a righteous cause. If a mysterious person like Chu Xiu were to talk to them about destroying the blissful demon palace, no one would listen to him. Now, facing so many sect heads and family heads, although they weren't famous in the southern region, they were all wily old foxes who had toiled in the pugilistic world for many years. There weren't many stupid people among them. Hence, Chu Xiu didn't need to pretend in front of them. Looking at the crowd, Chu Xiu said in a deep voice, I'm very glad that all of you are here. This means that the martial artists of the southern region aren't all lambs waiting to be slaughtered. I'm sure you all know why I've gathered all of you here today. The blissful demon palace has been doing evil in the southern region for far too long. I'm sure all of you have experienced the oppression of the big sections. However, I believe all of you are able to tolerate it, because they abide by the rules. They won't destroy you just because they don't like you. However, the blissful demon palace has committed all sorts of evil deeds. They've never followed the rules. Their methods are cruel, and their characters are vicious. They're the cancer of the southern region's pugilistic world. Among all of you here, who hasn't been bullied by the blissful demon palace? Who hasn't had a feud with the blissful demon palace? Now, do all of you still intend to tolerate it? Everyone's faces darkened after hearing Chu Xiu's words. Anger flashed in their eyes, but no one said a word. Of course, they had a feud with the blissful demon palace. They couldn't wait to destroy the blissful demon palace. However, they still had their sects and families behind them. What would happen to the others if they failed? Therefore, even if they had a feud with the blissful demon palace, they had to tolerate it. Chu Xiu shook his head when he saw the expressions on everyone's faces. You've all disappointed me. Do you think that it's enough to tolerate the blissful demon palace's cruel demonic cultivators? Look at Wang Yizhi. When the Wang family was annihilated, none of you did anything. You didn't even dare to say a word of justice because you're not from the Wang family. Then, the next time the Li family is annihilated, you'll do the same because you're not from the Li family either. In the end, when it's your turn, have any of you ever thought that there's no one around you who can speak up for you? Chu Xiu's words reverberated in their hearts. It was as if there was some kind of magic that stirred up the hatred in their hearts. The Zhao family's patriarch who had lost his son stood up abruptly. He said angrily, F***ck their grandma. I can't tolerate it anymore. Chapter 1233. The power of hatred was great. It could turn a young master like Wang Yizhi, who didn't know anything before, into an avenger who would kill without batting an eye. Chu Xiu didn't deliberately provoke them. He only amplified a certain emotion in their hearts, so they naturally knew what they should do. As the Zhao family's leader spoke, the crowd seemed to have been ignited as well. They all roared, wanting to take revenge on the blissful demon palace. Chu Xiu pressed his hand down and said in a low voice, Everyone, revenge isn't something that can be accomplished in one go. If I ask everyone to attack the blissful demon palace's headquarters now, you'll definitely think that I'm sending you to your deaths. So, this time, it's enough for us to attack one of the blissful demon palace's branches. Gather your elites, and I'll be the vanguard. We'll take revenge on the blissful demon palace first and collect some interest. The crowd calmed down a little when they heard that they were going to be serious. At the same time, some concerns arose in their hearts. It was easy to attack one of the blissful demon palace's branches, but what if the blissful demon palace came for revenge after the battle? At this moment, someone stood up and smiled awkwardly. Everyone, you can take revenge on the blissful demon palace, but I won't interfere. There are still many disciples in the Floating Sky sect. I can't bear such a heavy responsibility. With that, the Floating Sky sect's leader was about to leave. With him taking the lead, the others were also a little shaken. Everyone had their own families. After all, they had to weigh the demon's strength before slaying the demons. At this moment, Chu Xiu said coldly, Leader Lu of the Floating Sky sect, are you planning to leave just like that? Sect leader Lu's expression changed. What do you mean by that? I've only ever heard of people forcing others to kill. I've never heard of anyone forcing others to take revenge. Chu Xiu snorted coldly. Forcing? Everyone came willingly. Who's forcing who? I've sent out over 100 invitations during this period of time. 70% of those who came today are here. As for the other 30%, I won't force them. After all, everyone has their own ambitions. But since you've come here today, it's equivalent to paying your allegiance to the blissful devil palace, and now you want to leave? What's the meaning of that? You've seen our faces, and you know what we're here for. If you go out now and tell the blissful devil palace everything that happened here, they'll definitely sell us for a good price. As he spoke, Chu Xiu looked at the crowd. Everyone, it's too late even if you don't agree now. In the eyes of the blissful demon palace, as long as you're here, it means that you're going to attack the blissful demon palace. If news of this spreads, will you be able to withstand the revenge of the blissful demon palace? The people present were not idiots. They instantly understood the pros and cons of this matter. They could not help but look at sect leader Lu with unfriendly gazes. Sensing everyone's gazes, sect leader Lu's expression immediately changed. His speed immediately exploded to the maximum as he tried to leap out of the mansion. The formation here was not strong. With sect leader Lu's true fire spirit refinement stage cultivation base, he only needed the span of a breath to rush out of the mansion. However, he was shocked to discover that even though he had already moved, the distance between him and the door was getting further and further away. It was only a house that was several hundred feet wide, but it felt like it was 1,000 miles away. Illusion. Sect leader Lu had only just realized this when a hand suddenly appeared in front of him. It easily broke through his shield of vigor, strangled him to death, and threw him in front of everyone. The sound of the corpse landing on the ground shocked everyone present. No one dared to say anything. Chu Xiu said nonchalantly, "Exterminating demons and protecting the righteous path is to protect the righteous path and the martial world of the southern region. In the end, it's fine if someone doesn't want to make a move, but he still wants to collude with the blissful demon palace and become their lackey. Such actions are even more despicable. I believe none of you are willing to learn from such a person, am I right?" Everyone present nodded repeatedly. They had seen sect leader Lu's fate, and no one was willing to be a traitor here. Chu Xiu took out a piece of paper. On it were the various crimes of the blissful demon palace. He handed the paper over and said in a low voice, "Everyone, there is no way out now that things have come to this. Since we've all joined forces, no one wants anything to happen to us halfway. Sign this, and we'll crusade against the blissful demon palace. We'll fight the demons of the blissful demon palace to the death." This piece of paper was the true proof of allegiance. Only by signing it would they truly have no way out. No one would dare to snitch on the blissful demon palace after signing it, because that would be courting death. After everyone had signed their names, Chu Xiu said in a low voice, "Everyone, we'll gather our forces in 3 days' time and attack the blissful demon palace's branch." Everyone's faces were solemn as they dispersed. Wang Yizhi also followed suit. Chu Xiu stood in the house and said in a low voice, "Elder Xing, you can inform Palace Lord Yuan now. The blissful demon palace is also preparing to gather their forces and attack the blissful demon palace. With their strength, it'll be easy for them to destroy the blissful demon palace's branch and deal with the other disciples if they join forces. But if they want to kill Yan Beifeng, we'll need Palace Lord Yuan's help." Xing Bugong's figure appeared in the dark room. He shook his head and said, "You've deceived them." Although this kind of bottom-up method is novel, those people are still in the dark. It's really pitiful. Chu Xiu shook his head and said, "How can this be called deceiving them? It's a fact that I want to destroy the blissful demon palace. It's also a fact that destroying the blissful demon palace will be beneficial to them. I can only be considered as leading them. Speaking of which, Elder Xing, you're also from the heavenly demon palace. As a martial artist of the demonic path, you actually have such a compassionate heart?" Xing Bugong was surprised and said, "Does this have anything to do with being from the demonic path?" Chu Xiu shook his head slightly and didn't say anything. He had forgotten that the demonic path of the upper worlds and the demonic path of the lower worlds were actually two different concepts. Actually, all this while, Chu Xiu had felt that these small Daoist sects were a little cowardly, or rather, useless. In the past 10,000 years, there were only 2 sects like Cold River City that rose up later. They were too few. These sects weren't weak, but they might have already gotten used to the rule and oppression of those large sections. They only knew how to tolerate and not resist. This time, it was Chu Xiu who took the lead to lure and coerce them. Otherwise, they wouldn't have even thought of resisting. If there were sects like the Blissful Demon Palace in the lower worlds, they would have been attacked by groups of people. Even Chu Xiu hadn't done as much as the Blissful Demon Palace. He had been attacked by groups of people several times. Even when he was in control of the Northern Yen martial arts world, those small forces had dared to jump out and make an enemy out of him. Although they were enemies, it seemed that the warriors of the lower world seemed to have more backbone than the Daoist warriors. During these 3 days, the forces that had a grudge against the Blissful Demon Palace had gathered. In fact, during this period, Chu Xiu had been guarding against the Blissful Demon Palace's attack. Although Chu Xiu was confident that these people wouldn't tell on him, he was still worried that the Blissful Demon Palace would discover some clues. After all, there were so many forces that had a grudge against the Blissful Demon Palace. Such a thing couldn't be a coincidence. However, it was unknown whether the Blissful Demon Palace was too confident, or they really didn't pay attention to information. During these 3 days, the Blissful Demon Palace really didn't discover any of their movements. A pitch-black palace was located on the highest peak of the southern region's trade flow river. This was a branch palace of the Blissful Demon Palace. The entire Blissful Demon Palace was considered a branch palace of the southern region that had been destroyed by Chu Xiu. There were a total of 4 branches, each of which was suppressing an ominous land filled with ferocious beasts. 10,000 years ago, there were many aquatic ferocious beasts in the trade flow river. It was said that there were even flood dragons. However, there were only some big fishes left now. Dozens of forces and tens of thousands of warriors had gathered around the Blissful Demon Palace's branch palace. They had completely surrounded the entire Blissful Demon Palace's branch palace. Although the dozens of patriarchs and sect leaders had already made up their minds, they still felt uneasy. However, there was also a sense of heroism in their hearts. After all, how many people in the entire Daoist continent would dare to go against the Blissful Demon Palace? But they would. What Chu Xiu didn't know was that his initiative had brought a different atmosphere to the entire southern region. From then on, the entire southern region was filled with resistance and disputes, and many ambitious and ruthless people were born. Of course, this was a story for the future. At this moment, Chu Xiu looked at the Blissful Demon Palace, which had already activated its defensive formation. Chu Xiu said in a deep voice, "Everyone, there is no way out now that things have come to this. We must give it our all. Go up the mountain and slay the demons. Defend the righteous path." In the past, Chu Xiu was always the one being slain. Now, it was his turn to shout slogans. Needless to say, this feeling was really good. At this moment, in the Blissful Demon Palace's branch palace, the usually arrogant warriors of the Blissful Demon Palace couldn't help but reveal a hint of panic on their faces. This branch palace wasn't very strong, far inferior to Ming Xuanyu's branch palace. There were only about 1,000 people here. Although the warriors of the Blissful Demon Palace were definitely stronger than the warriors of these small sects, the other side outnumbered them by dozens of times. How could they not be terrified when they saw the densely packed people surrounding them? The leader of this branch palace was a one-eyed old man. He said coldly, "What are you all panicking for? Do you really think a bunch of trash can break through the branch palace? Slay the demons? It's more like suicide. Guard the formation well. The news has already been sent. When the palace lord arrives with reinforcements, everyone will die." As soon as the one-eyed old man finished speaking, a black-robed figure appeared in mid-air from the crowd. As he slashed down with the long saber in his hand, the void distorted. No one could see the invisible saber light. It was ethereal and traceless, and its momentum was formless. However, in the next moment, the formation above the Blissful Demon Palace's branch palace suddenly erupted with an extreme sharpness. With a loud boom, the formation shattered. The one-eyed old man's calmness was completely replaced by fear. Half-step martial immortal. Chapter 1234. Half-step martial immortals weren't martial immortals. However, to ordinary profound understanding realm cultivators, they were still powerful existences that could make them feel despair. Chu Xiu's saber strike had directly broken the great array of the blissful Devil Palace's branch palace. To the other warriors, this was undoubtedly a shot in the arm, raising everyone's morale even higher. The one-eyed old man from the blissful demon palace was rather responsible. He didn't flee immediately. Instead, he looked at Chu Xiu and said coldly, "Have you thought about the consequences of attacking the blissful demon palace's branch palace today? From now on, it will be a battle to the death." Chu Xiu shook his head and said, "You actually already know the answer, so why did you still ask that question? I've already killed them. Of course I know the result. It will be a battle to the death. Once everyone from the blissful demon palace is dead, it will be over." As Chu Xiu's voice fell, before he arrived, the saber gleam had already arrived. The surrounding space distorted. Boundless sharpness enveloped the one-eyed old man from the blissful demon palace. In all directions, the sky and the earth were filled with boundless sharpness, leaving him with nowhere to run and nowhere to hide. The formless ethereal slash was even more powerful than before. The slash was infinitely close to being a divine ability. Of course, that was when Chu Xiu used his full strength. The slash had reached a truly formless level. The consumption would also increase greatly. However, the slash from Chu Xiu could still leave some ripples in the void. There were still traces to be found. Even so, the might of the slash wasn't something that ordinary profound understanding realm cultivators could block. The one-eyed old man from the blissful demon palace sensed the aura. In an instant, his body strangely turned into a puddle of black mist. Similarly formless, the black mist seeped out from the gaps in the blade. In the end, it gathered together and transformed into the old man's figure. Interesting. Chu Xiu let out a soft cry of surprise. He was rather interested in the Bliss Demon Palace. The secret techniques they possessed were always so unimaginable. But in the next moment, Chu Xiu had already formed a cross-lotus seal with his hand. The pure white Buddhist light shone through the ages, and the cross-shaped lotus bloomed. The one-eyed old man wanted to turn into black fog again and escape, but he was evaporated and purified by the Buddhist light. He died without a complete corpse. Chu Xiu gently shook his head and said, "Your escaping skills are quite unique. Unfortunately, no matter how well you practice it, there will always be a day when you can't escape." This one-eyed old man could be said to have died the most aggrieved death among the heaven and earth profound insight realm martial artists who had died at the hands of Chu Xiu. The others still had the possibility of resisting, but he was the only one who only managed to dodge the first move. He couldn't even dodge the second. At this time, the other blissful devil palace's martial artists had completely collapsed. Their palace lord was a heaven and earth mystic insight realm powerhouse. He was definitely a big shot in their Bliss Devil Palace. But in the end, he was killed by this person in 2 moves. He was simply a monster. In an instant, the blissful Devil Palace's side lost all their will to fight. Many martial artists started to flee in all directions. As they fled, the morale of Chu Xiu's people rose. They even started to chase after them, without needing Chu Xiu's command. Previously, they were still a little afraid of the blissful Devil Palace. After all, they had been running amok in the southern region for a long time, and their demonic might was still there. But now that they looked at it, the blissful Devil Palace didn't seem to be that scary. The entire battle lasted for less than an hour. Wang Yizhi walked over, covered in blood. He said in a low voice, "Senior, everyone in the entire sub-palace has been wiped out. Only a small number of people managed to escape." Chu Xiu nodded. He narrowed his eyes and said, "Very good. Next, head straight to the Blissful Devil Palace's headquarters." If Chu Xiu had asked them to attack the Blissful Devil Palace's headquarters, they would definitely think that Chu Xiu was sending them to their deaths. But now that they had experienced such a massacre, everyone present was in high spirits. Simply put, they felt that the Blissful Devil Palace was nothing. They wanted to kill them all in one go. Wang Yizhi said hesitantly, "Senior, why don't we find a chance to wipe out the remaining 2 sub-palaces? We should cut off all the Blissful Devil Palace's wings first. The threat should be reduced by a lot." Chu Xiu said indifferently, "We succeeded this time because the Blissful Devil Palace was too careless. They only sent people to hunt you down. They didn't expect us to go so far. Before we attacked the Blissful Devil Palace's sub-palace, they must have already sent the news to their headquarters. They should have received the news by now. What's the point of us attacking the sub-palace? Let's just do it in one go." Chu Xiu's guess was right. The Blissful Devil Palace had indeed received the news. Elder Gongsun was in a complete panic after receiving the news. He was a veteran of the Blissful Devil Palace and was considered experienced. When Ming Xuanyu's sub-palace was destroyed, he already felt that something was amiss. Now that he received the news, Elder Gongsun immediately reacted. Someone was plotting against the Blissful Devil Palace. There couldn't be so many coincidences in this world. In such a short time, 2 sub-palaces were destroyed. That kid called Wang Yizhi definitely wasn't so lucky. It was as if he had the help of the gods after being hunted for a few years. He could stir up such a huge wave. He destroyed 2 of the Blissful Devil Palace's sub-palaces in one move. This was a serious blow to the Blissful Devil Palace. What would the other party do next? At this point, Elder Gongsun didn't dare to imagine. Even if he had to take the risk, he had to interrupt Yan Beifeng's research on the heavenly cycle demon god formation. However, before Elder Gongsun knocked on the door of Yan Beifeng's seclusion room, Yan Beifeng opened the door himself and came out. Seeing the flustered Elder Gongsun, Yan Beifeng couldn't help but frown. What's the fuss? At this moment, Yan Beifeng's face was full of exhaustion, but there was also a hint of excitement. However, Elder Gongsun didn't notice this. Instead, he hurriedly told Yan Beifeng everything that had happened during this period of time. After Elder Gongsun finished, Yan Beifeng's expression didn't change at all. That's it? Elder Gongsun was stunned. This wasn't enough? Palace Lord, the other party's actions in the dark, to be more precise, have already been exposed. They will definitely make a big move later. How should we deal with it now? Yan Beifeng said indifferently, how should we deal with it? If 1 comes, we'll kill 1. If 2 comes, we'll kill both. Elder Gongsun looked at Yan Beifeng in astonishment. He didn't know why Yan Beifeng was so confident. It was noon, and the sun was shining brightly everywhere else. Only the valley where the Blissful Demon Palace's headquarters was located was dark and gloomy. The sky was shrouded by a thick cloud of dark demon chi, and it looked very strange. Everywhere it passed, the walls of the valley were also engraved with all sorts of evil statues. There were demon gods eating humans, monsters with beast bodies and human heads, and dancing fairies. However, the fairies didn't have lower limbs. Instead, they had the body of a ferocious spider. Such a strange scene scared the people who were previously in high spirits to the point of suffocation. The Blissful Devil Palace wasn't very popular in the southern region. Not to mention the warriors from the small sects, even those from the big sects who had dealings with the Blissful Devil Palace would rarely come to the Blissful Devil Palace. At the end of the valley, a huge black city sat below. It was like a giant beast lying there. Yan Beifeng sat on top of the city, looking relaxed. Looking at the tens of thousands of warriors below, Yan Beifeng looked like he was looking at tens of thousands of ants. Slow, too slow. I've waited for you for so long. Why are you only here now? Yan Beifeng's voice resounded in the entire valley. It also resounded in the hearts of everyone present. They couldn't help but shiver. Everyone in the southern region knew the blissful demon exalted Yan Beifeng was a madman. True evildoers weren't scary. What was scary was a temperamental madman like him. Yan Beifeng's name, or rather, his infamy, had spread throughout the entire southern region. At that moment, when they truly faced Yan Beifeng, there wasn't a single warrior from the southern region who wouldn't feel fear. Yan Beifeng looked at the people below and said indifferently, "You've already fought your way to my blissful devil palace. Stop hiding and reveal your identities. I don't believe this was caused by that Wang Yizhi. No matter how strong an ant is, it can't lift up an elephant." Wang Yizhi revealed a furious expression of humiliation. However, before a martial immortal level expert, even though he had deep hatred for Yan Beifeng, he couldn't even curse out. Besides, what Yan Beifeng said was the truth. Before a martial immortal level expert, he was indeed only an ant. Chu Xiu didn't try to act mysterious. He directly took off the mask on his face. "Palace Lord Yan, we meet again. Didn't you want to capture me back then and interrogate me about Qinqingdi's whereabouts? Now that I've come knocking on your door, what do you think? Are you surprised?" Yan Beifeng suddenly sat up and stared at Chu Xiu below. The coldness in his eyes didn't fade away. He really didn't expect that the instigator of all this would be Chu Xiu. His blissful devil palace had provoked countless people over the years. There were large sects in the southern region, rogue cultivators, and even prime venerables. However, he never expected that this person would be Chu Xiu, someone from the eastern region, and a cultivator who hadn't even reached the martial immortal realm. Moreover, Yan Beifeng had a deep impression of Chu Xiu. It was so deep that he had once wanted to kill Chu Xiu for a month. In the Blessed Enclave, Mu Baishuang had plotted to kill Fang Yinglong. As long as he succeeded, the eastern region would be within his grasp. In the end, no one made any mistakes. However, he just had to make a mistake. He was blocked by a junior who hadn't even reached the martial immortal realm like Chu Xiu, causing him to fail in killing Fang Yinglong. Although Mu Baishuang didn't say anything in the end, and Tao Qianming and the others didn't mock Yan Beifeng, this matter was still a great humiliation to Yan Beifeng. Chapter 1235. When Chu Xiu's identity was revealed, not only was Yan Beifeng surprised, but Wang Yizhi and the others were even more surprised. They had some speculations about Chu Xiu's identity before, but they all thought that Chu Xiu was also a cultivator from the southern territory, a rogue cultivator who had a deep grudge against blissful demon palace. They never expected that the other party was not a cultivator from the southern territory at all, but from the eastern territory. An eastern territory cultivator had come to the southern territory to exterminate demons and defend the Tao, claiming to bring peace to the southern territory. At this moment, they all felt like they had been deceived. Of course, deception was deception, but they had no way out now. Yan Beifeng stood on the city wall and laughed. "Chu Xiu, you really gave this senior a big surprise. I was worried about how to go to the eastern territory to find you, but I didn't expect you to take the initiative to come to me. But you don't have to act mysterious, invite the people behind you to come out. You're not an idiot, on the contrary, you're very cunning. You should know that it's impossible for you to cause trouble for my blissful devil palace with a bunch of trash like this. Who is behind you? Is it High Heaven sect and your master Guzun? It's me." A purer demon chi fell from the sky and Yuan Kongqing landed with several heaven and earth profound enlightenment realm elders from heavenly demon palace and stood beside Chu Xiu. The moment they saw Yuan Kongqing, the sect masters and patriarchs of the southern territory suddenly boiled with excitement. They never expected that their strong reinforcements would turn out to be heavenly demon palace, a top sect in the southern territory that also belonged to the devil path. However, although they were surprised, they were also pleasantly surprised. With Heavenly Demon Palace stepping forward, their chances of winning would definitely increase. Yuan Kongcheng. What is your Heavenly Demon Palace trying to do? Yan Beifeng's eyes narrowed and he said coldly, back in the blessed cave, you stopped me from killing this brat, and now you even joined forces with him to plot against my blissful demon palace. Could it be that you've been plotting against my blissful demon palace since then? Yuan Kongcheng said lightly, what plot? It's clearly your bliss demon palace's tyrannical behavior, breaking the rules of the southern region martial world and incurring public wrath. My Sky Devil Palace and your Bliss Devil Palace both belong to the Devil Dao. Your Bliss Devil Palace has broken the rules of the southern region, but you've also brought shame to the entire Devil Dao. Today, my Heavenly Devil Palace is not making a move for personal gain, but for the reputation of the entire Devil Dao. Yuan Kongcheng's words made the southern region martial artists present have a whole new level of respect for him. After all, although the Heavenly Demon Palace's reputation wasn't as bad as the Blissful Demon Palace's, it wasn't any better. Hearing Yuan Kongcheng's words, they felt that the Heavenly Demon Palace was indeed different from the Blissful Demon Palace. Yuan Kongcheng, who did you learn these words from? Hypocrite. What a hypocrite. Yan Beifeng sneered disdainfully. All along, your Heavenly Demon Palace has always regarded itself as the orthodox Devil Dao. It's not the first or second day that you've disliked our blissful Demon Palace. Now that you've made your move, I might have thought highly of you if you directly said that you wanted to compete with our blissful Demon Palace for the #1 orthodoxy of the Devil Dao. But now, you're secretly playing tricks, spouting such righteous bullshit, and bringing a bunch of trash to destroy our blissful Demon Palace. Your Heavenly Demon Palace is really regressing. Since you're courting death today, fine, I'll fulfill your wish. Yuan Kongcheng frowned slightly, because he didn't hear the slightest hint of fear in Yan Beifeng's words. There was only a hint of surprise, but the rest was confidence. The people he had brought with him were enough to resist the high-level forces of the blissful Demon Palace. Moreover, the warriors of the southern region had the advantage in numbers. If they were to charge at the blissful Demon Palace together, it would be just like what Chu Xiu had said. The Heavenly Demon Palace wouldn't have to pay too many casualties to completely destroy the blissful Demon Palace. So, where did Yan Beifeng get the confidence to fight against them? Chu Xiu said in a low voice, Palace Lord Yuan, don't think too much. Since we've already made our move, we can only attack by force. There should be formation masters among the people you brought, right? Attack and destroy the blissful Demon Palace's formation. At this time, Yan Beifeng sneered and said, for so many years, when did our blissful Demon Palace need to rely on the formation to resist external enemies? Only your Heavenly Demon Palace likes to hide in the Heavenly Demon Palace, relying on the remaining power of that old guy's Wuxia, not daring to show up. As Yan Beifeng spoke, he leapt forward and appeared before Yuan Kongcheng and Chu Xiu in an instant. A burst of shrill ghostly wails rang out, and a boundless black demonic mist immediately enveloped the two of them. Yuan Kongcheng said in a low voice, do as I said. Chu, I hope you won't disappoint me. Kill. Following Yuan Kongcheng's shout, the martial artists under him charged towards the martial artists of the blissful Demon Palace. At the same time, the martial artists of the southern region also charged towards the martial artists of the blissful Demon Palace under Wang Yiji's lead. At the same time, an extremely pure demonic aura burst out from Yuan Kongcheng's body. With a palm strike, the demonic hand that blotted out the sky tore through the layers of demonic fog and grabbed towards Yan Beifeng. Amongst the martial immortals of the southern region, Yuan Kongcheng was relatively young. He had only become a martial immortal not long ago. Previously, Lu Sanjin had told him that Yuan Kongcheng was only at the second heaven of the martial immortal realm. However, Yuan Kongcheng had actually reached the fourth heaven of the martial immortal realm. Yan Beifeng, on the other hand, could reach the fifth heaven of the martial immortal realm when he went all out. Although he was stronger than Yuan Kongcheng, he was not undefeatable. Most importantly, with the two half-step martial immortals, Chu Xiu and Shang Tianliang present, even though they could not face him head-on, they could still harass him from the shadows. The demonic fog was torn apart by the demonic hand. However, what appeared before Yuan Kongsheng was a malevolent demon. Its body was only several zhang tall, but when it opened its mouth, it was over 100 zhang wide. It devoured Yuan Kongsheng's demonic hand. In the next moment, demonic palaces appeared around Yan Beifeng. Within each demonic palace was a strand of demonic aura that was about to envelop Yuan Kongsheng. Palace Master Shang, attack. As soon as he finished speaking, Chu Xiu's figure appeared behind Yan Beifeng and he swung his ethereal slash. When the slash landed, there was no change in the entire void. However, an extremely sharp radiance rose from Yan Beifeng's body and tore apart the demonic mist around him. Shang Tianliang also threw a punch. Under his power of withering, the power of time was distorted. Taking advantage of the fact that the demonic fog around Yan Beifeng was torn apart by Chu Xiu's slash, Shang Tianliang threw a punch at Yan Beifeng. After refining the demon god's blood, Shang Tianliang's strength had reached the half-step martial immortal realm. At the same time, with the support of the demon god's blood, in addition to his own strength, his punch stirred up space and the power of the world it carried could be said to be extremely shocking. It was absolutely capable of injuring martial immortals. However, a layer of bone armor strangely appeared on Yan Beifeng's body. It was grayish-white in color and contained a sinister power of annihilation. It completely negated the power of Shang Tianliang's punch. Such great strength. Yan Beifeng turned around and looked at Shang Tianliang. Then, he punched out. Dense devil qi erupted and Shang Tianliang was sent flying, causing him to spit out a mouthful of blood. Although Shang Tianliang's strength could theoretically injure martial immortals, he was not a real martial immortal after all. Fortunately, Shang Tianliang's physical body was strong and he had the support of the demon god's blood. So, spitting out a few mouthfuls of blood was nothing to him. After all, he was rather resistant to attacks. At the same time, the 10-3 annihilation arrows in Chu Xiu's hands suddenly burst out. The boundless annihilation fire instantly enveloped Yan Beifeng's entire body. Sanskrit's annihilation fire? No wonder the monks from Sanskrit are looking for trouble with you. You've even learned Sanskrit's special skill. If they don't look for trouble with you, who else would they look for trouble with? However, your annihilation fire is too weak. If it was the Lord of Sanskrit's Shiva temple, Li Matian, it would be more like it. As Yan Beifeng's voice fell, he formed a seal with his hand, and the gigantic evil spirit appeared once again. It opened its mouth, and the endless flames of destruction were all swallowed into its stomach, extinguishing everything in its path. However, at this moment, Yan Beifeng frowned slightly. He took a step forward and the ground beneath his feet cracked. A powerful blade radiance was forcefully crushed by him. No one knew when Chu Xiu had slashed out with the earth-destroying saber. The blade radiance was ethereal and traceless. It suddenly appeared in the air and Yan Beifeng suddenly threw a punch behind him. The sudden extreme blade radiance collided with his punch, causing Yan Beifeng to take a few steps back. The ethereal strike was formless and intangible. In the hands of Dugu Weiwei, this strike could be said to be quite powerful. With a raise of the hand, the blade fell, and the enemy died. The current Chu Xiu couldn't do this. Therefore, the ethereal strike's special characteristics were quite useful for sneak attacks. Yan Beifeng's eyes were gloomy. He could feel that the current Chu Xiu was even more powerful than the Chu Xiu in the Blessed Enclave. Just as he was about to say something, Chu Xiu suddenly shouted, "Palace Lord Yuan, are you done? If you delay any longer, I won't be able to block it." "What's the hurry? You haven't even used your full strength, yet you can't block it?" Yuan Kongsheng's muffled voice was heard. The next moment, the demon palaces that wrapped around him shattered one by one. a powerful wave of demon chi shot up into the sky. The demon chi in the air was turbulent and the wind and clouds were raging. It had even formed a huge demon chi vortex that was hundreds of feet wide. From the vortex, a demon hand that seemed to be able to pierce through the sky and earth reached out. The hand opened up like a mountain and trapped Yan Beifeng within. At the same time, runes flashed on the demon hand. However, those runes weren't of the demon lineage. Instead, they were Sanskrit talismans that emitted a golden radiance. It was the demon suppression talisman of the Daoist lineage. Chapter 1236. Yuan Kongqing's heaven-covering demon hand was a supreme spirit ability that he had comprehended. It was not completely a spirit ability of the heavenly devil palace's lineage, but contained his own understanding. Even among the martial immortals, there were very few existences capable of creating divine abilities. However, Yuan Kongqing was able to place his own imprint on a divine ability and assimilate a portion of the power of a spirit formation into it. This could be said to be an exceptional talent. The demonic hand that blotted out the heavens sealed all power. This demonic hand was the heavens itself. Yan Beifeng looked at the flickering runes on the five-finger mountain and sneered, "It's the Sanskrit of the heavenly Luo treasure temple and the evil-suppressing runes of the three pristines temple. You are a person of the demonic Tao, yet you have engraved so many methods to deal with demonic Tao martial artists in your magical powers. I'm afraid that from the very beginning, you wanted to attack me, right? Of all the devil Tao in the entire southern territory, only my blissful devil palace can threaten your heavenly devil palace." Yuan Kongqing said faintly, "To be more precise, it should be vigilance. Your bliss devil palace has never been a kind and benevolent bunch. Ever since the palace lord met with an accident and couldn't leave the heavenly devil palace, your blissful devil palace has been playing dirty tricks. As for the matter of the orthodox devil Tao, your blissful demon palace has been trying to compete with my heavenly demon palace for this position since 10,000 years ago in the lower realm. After arriving at the Daoist continent, as long as there is an opportunity, your blissful demon palace will always come to cause trouble. The palace master is already old. I don't know how much longer he can hold on. At that time, the one I should be most wary of isn't the sword sect and the other sects under the heavens, but your bliss demon palace. This is the true usage and power of the heaven-shrouding demonic hand. These are all prepared by me for you. Yan Beifeng, no matter if you are really crazy or pretending to be crazy, you will not be able to escape this time." As Yuan Kongqing's voice fell, above the five huge fingers, endless devil chi mixed with Buddhist light and Tao accumulation erupted. The devil chi provided the source of power, and the Buddhist light and Taoist connotation together destroyed all the power within the devil hand, causing Yan Beifeng to let out a grunt. He could only use his own source of power to resist. Chu Xiu took a deep look at Yuan Kongqing. Previously, the impression that this brother gave others was that he was not a scheming person. But now, it seemed that this person wasn't someone easy to get along with. In the beginning, when Chu Xiu persuaded Yuan Kongqing to attack the blissful devil palace, Yuan Kongqing had shown some hesitation and resistance. But now, it seemed that Yuan Kongqing didn't have any resistance at all. Instead, it was obvious that Yuan Kongqing was welcoming the blissful devil palace. Of course, this didn't matter to Chu Xiu. His goal was to annihilate the blissful devil palace and obtain Dugu Weiwei's blood essence. Yuan Kongqing's goal was also to annihilate the blissful devil palace. There was no conflict between the two. Now that Yan Beifeng was trapped in Yuan Kongqing's demonic hand, Chu Xiu couldn't intervene, so he turned his attention to the blissful demon palace. At this time, the cultivators of the southern region and heavenly devil palace had already begun to launch a large-scale attack on the blissful devil palace. Both sides were evenly matched. The southern region and the sky devil palace had the advantage in numbers, while the bliss devil palace had the advantage in terms of geography, formations, and traps. Thus, they were able to hold their ground. Chu Xiu said in a low voice, "Lord Shang, help break the formation. Let's kill our way in." Shang Tianliang's power of withering glory could be said to be the nemesis of formations. It was even faster than a formation master could break a formation. "Everyone, retreat!" Shang Tianliang roared and opened up his domain. The power of withering glory flourished and all the arrays within his domain began to overload. They began to operate at 10 times or even dozens of times their original capacity. In the end, they were forcefully blown apart. Without the protection of the formations, the cultivators of the southern region immediately rushed forward in a frenzy. They didn't have the slightest bit of strength left in them. Everyone was attacking with all their might. If the blissful Devil Palace wasn't annihilated today, they would be the ones to suffer in the future. As soon as Chu Xiu stepped onto the top of the blissful Devil Palace's city wall, a heaven and earth elemental enlightenment realm powerhouse of the blissful Devil Palace came to greet him. A four-walled demon god Dharma idol appeared behind him, and the 4 demonic blades in its hands slashed towards Chu Xiu with terrifying might. The formation-breaking tool in Chu Xiu's hand didn't carry any demonic aura, but when the blade fell, the heaven and earth elemental enlightenment realm powerhouse from the blissful Devil Palace felt a chill run down his spine. In the next moment, he released his domain, but it didn't help at all. The domain was forcefully torn apart, and the 4-armed demon god behind him shattered in an instant. Before he could react, his body had already been enveloped by a layer of misty domain. Within that domain, all power was illusory, and all changes were suppressed. Chu Xiu's fist landed, and the opponent was sent flying, spitting out blood. Chu Xiu's physical body was already strong to begin with. With the addition of the demon god's power, his physical body was now even stronger than the martial artists of the war god sect who specialized in cultivating their physical bodies. Apart from Emperor Chen Qingdi, he would not lose to anyone in the same realm in terms of physical strength. Do you know that the blissful Devil Palace stole the blood essence of a powerhouse 500 years ago? Where is it now? Chu Xiu didn't kill him right away. Instead, he interrogated Dugu Weiwei about his blood essence. The heaven and earth elemental enlightenment realm powerhouse from the blissful Devil Palace roared, "Bastard! Die!" A deep blood-red color flashed in his eyes, and the muscles all over his body swelled up. Demonic tattoos appeared on his skin. However, before he could finish unleashing his power, Chu Xiu's fist had already landed once again. The wind from the fist stirred up heaven and earth, and the fist's momentum suppressed all things. In the eyes of the blissful Devil Palace powerhouse, the power of this fist was like that of an ancient demon god. It was ferocious and terrifying, and it was an unstoppable force. Bang! A loud sound rang out, and the heaven and earth elemental enlightenment realm powerhouse exploded into a mist of blood. What use do you have if you don't know anything? Chu Xiu didn't even look at him. Instead, he turned his gaze to the other blissful Devil Palace powerhouse. He doesn't know, but do you? The blissful Devil Palace hadn't been defeated yet. Moreover, there weren't many heaven and earth elemental enlightenment realm powerhouses who would beg for mercy, especially those who came from a large sect like the blissful Devil Palace. The powerhouse that Chu Xiu had his eyes on started burning his blood essence almost instantly. The violent power of blood essence condensed into a blood demon projection behind him, roaring as it charged towards Chu Xiu. The powerhouse formed a seal with one hand, and the wails of ghosts and gods rang out in midair. As the heavens cried blood rain, the huge demon god tore through the void and reached out with one hand, directly pulling the blood demon projection into the endless dark void. The powerhouse's face was extremely pale after losing 80% of his blood essence. In the next moment, he resolutely started burning his soul, and golden divine light covered his entire body. However, before he could make a move, he was shocked to discover that Chu Xiu was no longer in front of him. It was an illusion. The powerhouse subconsciously spread out all the power of his soul, but before he could even start investigating, a saber light had already slashed across his neck. His headless corpse and head fell to the ground almost at the same time. He only realized at the very last moment of his life that it wasn't an illusion, but a saber strike that had reached the pinnacle of speed. Chu Xiu shook his head and said, "Could it be that once you've reached the heaven and earth elemental enlightenment realm, you can only rely on your own senses? You can't even believe your own eyes." In an instant, he had killed 2 heaven and earth elemental enlightenment realm powerhouses. Now, all the powerhouses from the blissful devil palace looked at Chu Xiu with extreme fear. How could they fight him? Heaven and earth elemental enlightenment realm powerhouses were considered powerhouses no matter where they were placed. In the blissful devil palace, people with this level of strength were either elders or hall masters. Now that Chu Xiu had killed 2 of them like chickens, everyone was terrified. No matter how strong-willed they were, they didn't want to attack Chu Xiu anymore. Doing so was basically sending them to their deaths. When Chu Xiu's gaze turned to the 3rd heaven and earth elemental enlightenment realm powerhouse from the blissful devil palace, the other party completely collapsed. He immediately said, "I know. I know. I handle all the affairs of the blissful devil palace, big or small. The palace lord has also studied the blood of that powerhouse in the past. I know where it is." The person Chu Xiu was looking at this time was Elder Gong Sun of the blissful devil palace, the one who was responsible for helping Yan Beifeng handle the various chores of the palace. The 2 who attacked Chu Xiu previously were in their prime, but they clearly knew that they were no match for Chu Xiu, yet they still fought head-on with their lives. Although this Elder Gong Sun was already very old, he cherished his life even more than the other 2 elders from before. He had helped Yan Beifeng manage the blissful devil palace for so many years, so he was very clear about the state of the blissful devil palace. They had offended so many people. As long as Yan Beifeng died, the entire blissful devil palace would definitely fall apart. They couldn't escape from the death trap laid out by Chu Xiu and the Sky Devil Palace, but he didn't want to die yet. Chu Xiu glanced at him and said plainly, "Not bad. You're sensible. I like sensible people. Lead the way." Elder Gong Sun said carefully, "Official Chu, the blissful devil palace doesn't just have what you want, it also has the accumulation of the blissful devil palace for tens of thousands of years. As long as you agree to one condition of mine, I'll hand them all to you, Official Chu." "Oh? What condition?" Elder Gong Sun looked at Wang Yizhi, who was still crazily slaughtering the blissful devil palace's martial artists, and said coldly, "As long as Official Chu allows me to kill this brat, I'll definitely tell you everything I know." Although in the eyes of others, including Yan Beifeng, Elder Gong Sun had so many descendants, and it wasn't a big deal for him to kill one, only he knew that the grandson he killed was the one he loved the most. He could watch the blissful devil palace be destroyed, but he couldn't stand by and watch as his enemies enjoyed such glory. Moreover, in Elder Gongsuan's eyes, Chu Xiu had put Wang Yizhi on the stage just to make use of his identity. Now that the blissful devil palace was about to be destroyed, Wang Yizhi was naturally useless. Chu Xiu would definitely agree to such a small matter. Chu Xiu had a faint smile on his face, and he said plainly, "I didn't expect Elder Gongsun to be such a straightforward person." "No problem, I agree." Chapter 1237. With Elder Gongsun leading the way for Chu Xiu was able to enter the blissful demon palace's treasury without a hitch. Places like this, which were extremely important to the sect, were also protected by a formation. However, it was not an offensive formation, but a defensive formation. Such formations were truly troublesome to deal with, as they were very time-consuming. Even Shang Tianliang's withering glory domain was useless. With Elder Gongsun leading the way, Chu Xiu was able to enter without a hitch, and he saw all sorts of strange things. The blissful demon palace researched one's qi, blood, body, and even soul. They had created many monsters and incomprehensible existences. This was something that Chu Xiu couldn't understand. The blissful demon palace wasn't a demon, but a mad demon. It would be fine if they really had a goal, but the reality was that they usually only had a bold idea, and they would start killing wantonly, experimenting with flesh and blood. If they didn't succeed, they would give up and switch to the next experiment. If they succeeded, they would be able to create all sorts of monsters or secret techniques that they could use, and that would be worth it. Chu Xiu had killed many people, so he wouldn't hypocritically accuse the blissful demon palace of killing innocents. However, what the blissful demon palace was doing was truly seeking their own destruction. Sensing that Chu Xiu's gaze was a little off, Elder Gongsun smiled sheepishly and explained, "Official Chu, I actually didn't participate much in what the blissful demon palace did. The blissful demon palace is divided into a few sections. Some people insist on researching those strange secret techniques, while others cultivate demonic techniques honestly. I belong to the latter group. The blissful demon palace wasn't like this in the beginning. It was just that the later generations messed around and tampered with the core inheritance of the blissful demon palace, resulting in the current situation. The core inheritance of the blissful demon palace is actually just one word: creation. Demons exist in this world, unlike the sects of Taoism and Buddhism, which were calm and tranquil. Instead, there are thousands of possibilities. There are thousands of heavenly demons, and the creation of the blissful demon palace can also undergo thousands of changes. However, this path was too difficult. There were very few disciples from the blissful devil palace who could reach the core of the martial path. That's why the blissful demon palace became what it is now. They only know how to play with those evil secret techniques, but they've forgotten the core of the blissful demon palace's martial arts. As Elder Gongsun spoke, he opened the door to the last secret chamber and said, "In here is the most precious collection of our bliss devil palace. The fresh blood of that powerhouse is stored here." As he said that, Elder Gongsun took out a jade bottle. There were actually 8 drops of fresh blood sealed inside, which was even more than the heavenly demon palace. Elder Gongsun said, regarding the legend of this expert, the elders of the sect have also mentioned it. Over the years, the palace master and other martial artists have tried to refine this blood, but all of them have failed. They have even used it to conduct other experiments, but all of them have failed without exception. In the beginning, there were more than 10 drops, but now, there was only this much left. However, my blissful demon palace's previous palace master once said that there is a trace of death chi in this blood essence, which is the reason why it cannot be refined. However, it is said that the powerhouse did not die but was instead sealed in high heaven sect. Why would this blood essence give birth to death chi? Chu Xiu raised his brow. Death chi? He didn't ask anything and instead turned his eyes to the other treasures in the secret chamber. Although Chu Xiu told Yuan Kongcheng that he only wanted Dugu Weiwei's blood essence, now that the treasures were right in front of him, Chu Xiu wasn't an idiot who would just obediently take the blood essence without asking for anything else. However, after wandering around, Chu Xiu didn't find anything worth taking. Chu Xiu didn't lack ordinary cultivation resources, so in order to show his magnanimity, he decided to leave them to Yuan Kongcheng. As for the other treasures, Yang Kai had to admit that the treasures of blissful demon palace were of no use to most people. There was even the blood, bones, and even the brains of fierce beasts, and the strangest thing was that there was even a sealed soul of a living person. These things were useless to Chu Xiu, but at the very center of the secret chamber, there was something that attracted his attention. It was a black pill placed inside a jade box. To be precise, it wasn't black, but rather something that flowed like a liquid. "What is this?" Elder Gongsun said, "This is a good fortune demon seed. 10,000 years ago, when we were still in the lower realm, it was left behind by the last palace master who cultivated the good fortune demon palace. However, although he left this thing behind, he didn't leave any instructions, so later generations didn't know what it was and studied it for a long time without any results. In the end, it was left behind by our ancestral founder, so we have always kept it. Chu Xiu nodded in understanding and kept it in his arms. He didn't know what this thing was used for, but the moment Chu Xiu saw it, the demonic qi in his body that came from the primitive devil cave gave him a throb. This demonic qi had only helped him master the lawful embodiment of heaven and earth when he was facing the threat of Jun Wushan's head-piercing 7 arrows. But now, it gave him such a throb. This was very rare, so he didn't care whether it was useful or not, he just had to keep it first. After looking around and not finding anything useful, Chu Xiu nodded in satisfaction and said, "All right, not bad. I should go." Elder Gong's son immediately smiled and said, "Then official Chu can help me kill that kid Wang Yizhi?" Chu Xiu shook his head and said, "No, why should I kill him? That kid is very obedient and helped me so much. If I kill him, it will affect my reputation in the southern region. Also, I just said that I should go, not that you can go." Elder Gong's son looked at Chu Xiu in shock and said in a trembling voice, "Official Chu, what do you mean by this? You promised me before. I've also helped you a lot." Chu Xiu smiled and said, "I did promise you, but I'm not going to keep it. There's no need to talk about morality with a demon like you." As soon as Chu Xiu's words left his mouth, his celestial territory unfolded and instantly enveloped Elder Gong's son. Elder Gong's son wasn't considered strong in the blissful devil palace, but he had a high status because of his qualifications and ability to deal with such matters. In addition, he was now old, and his strength was starting to weaken. He was trapped in Chu Xiu's celestial territory and couldn't break free at all. He couldn't even burn his essence, blood and spirit. Chu Xiu punched with an expressionless face. Elder Gong's son vomited blood and his aura weakened. 2 more punches. His bones shattered and his aura dissipated. When Chu Xiu punched for the 3rd time, only a mist of blood remained in the secret chamber. Elder Gong's son is still so naive and easily trusted others. What a poor professional ability. Chu Xiu tidied his clothes and left calmly. Meanwhile, in the outside world, Yuan Kongqing was fighting Yan Beifeng, who was in the center of the demonic hand. He had unleashed his full power and didn't relax in the slightest. For a 4th-level martial immortal to fight against a 5th-level martial immortal, Yan Beifeng, who possessed astonishing battle prowess in the southern region on top of that, even if Chu Xiu and Shang Tianliang were to attract his attention and allow him to successfully launch a surprise attack, it would still not be easy for him to kill his opponent. However, what surprised Yuan Kongqing was that Yan Beifeng didn't show any despair despite his strength being continuously eroded. He didn't even curse. He was forming hand seals with both hands, but the hand seals he formed were completely different. The hand seals on his left hand shone with dark light. Demonic aura rose, resisting the encroachment of the demonic hand. As for the seal on his right hand, there was a faint trace of blood-red color that was constantly circulating. In such a strange atmosphere, Yuan Kongqing couldn't help but say, "Yan Beifeng, what are you still holding on for? The blissful demon palace has already been breached. Your faction has already been destroyed." Yan Beifeng's lips curled into a sinister murderous intent, but he still wore a smile on his face. "That's right. The blissful demon palace has already been breached. So, today, all of you will die. All of you will accompany the blissful demon palace in death. However, the blissful demon palace will not be destroyed. As long as I am here, the blissful demon palace will remain." Yuan Kongqing wanted to say something, but the next moment, as the blood-red light circulated, a powerful aura surged into the sky. With a loud explosion, the demonic hand exploded. What the hell is this? Yuan Kongqing stared at the scene before him, dumbfounded. At this moment, Yan Beifeng's face was pale, as if his blood had been sucked dry. However, he was surrounded by 36 extremely strange existences. Even Yuan Kongqing didn't know what to call them. These 36 monsters seemed to have been assembled. Some had human bodies and beast heads, some had beast bodies and human heads. There were even some that didn't look like humans at all, but more like monsters that were pieced together. Most importantly, they were all living beings with primordial spirits that possessed extremely violent primordial spirit power. At this moment, these 36 monsters circled around and formed a formation. They actually began to absorb the power of the stars into their bodies. Runes shone on their bodies, rippling with layers of starlight. At this moment, these strange monsters actually carried an orthodox Xianmen aura. Within them, good and evil existed side by side, appearing extremely strange. What the hell is this? Yuan Kongqing couldn't help but ask. Yan Beifeng said disdainfully, what the hell is this? This isn't a ghost. It's the true core of the blissful demon palace's martial path. Using the creation of heaven and earth for oneself. The true core of the blissful demon palace's martial path is this power of creation that comes from nothing, that runs through life, death, yin, and yang. I spent more than 100 years to create the 36 demon gods in this demon god formation of heavenly cycle. I spent countless beasts and experts of the barbarian tribe, as well as all kinds of true spirits and nascent divinities to create them. Every single one of them is a real living being. The ancient demon gods were born from heaven and earth, possessing the power of heaven and earth. These 36 demon gods of mine were forged by me after birth. Although they can't borrow the power of heaven and earth, they are still demon gods, postnatal demon gods. If heaven and earth can create demon gods, so can I. When the power of creation reaches the peak, they are gods. Yuan Kongqing stared at Yan Beifeng, dumbfounded. Madman! You madman! Chapter 1238. Anyone who wanted to do something only gods could do with human strength was either a lunatic or a genius. Yuan Kongqing naturally did not think that Yan Beifeng was a genius, so he could only be a lunatic. The 36 demon gods in the heavenly cycle demon god formation were all living beings. They had bodies, Yuan Shen, and even desires. Although it was only the simplest desire to kill, they were still living beings. Therefore, strictly speaking, Yan Beifeng had succeeded. At the very least, he had taken the first step in creating all things. The 36 ferocious demon gods moved at the same time, moving at an extremely fast speed. Their fleshly bodies were forged by Yan Beifeng using all kinds of powerful wild beasts and the fleshly bodies of powerful warriors of the barbarian tribe, while their primordial spirits were looted by the blissful devil palace through assassinations and robberies. These three combined almost all the advantages of the human race, the barbarian race, and the savage beasts. The demon god's sharp claws tore through Yuan Kongqing's protective gang qi, but Yuan Kongqing sent them flying with a single slap. However, the postnatal demon gods' bodies were so strong that they were not injured at all after being slapped away. Then, they rushed over again, one after another, annoying Yuan Kongqing. All of you, get out of my way! Yuan Kongqing roared, and the power around him surged to the limit. Demon shadows appeared behind him, dancing wildly. In an instant, everything within a radius of several hundred zhang became a boundless demonic domain. Although the 36 Ho Tian demon gods were sent flying by the attack, Yuan Kongqing's heart sank because the physical bodies of the 36 Ho Tian demon gods were simply abnormally strong. They didn't suffer much injury at all, and their auras became even fiercer. Yan Beifeng sat cross-legged on the ground, recovering his strength as he sneered, "It's useless. These 36 postnatal demon gods have been specially refined by the Bliss Demon Palace's corpse ghost secret art. Their bodies are already extremely strong, and after being refined into corpse ghost bodies, they are immortal and comparable to supreme-grade divine weapons." Seeing Yan Beifeng's pale face, Yuan Kongqing moved and attacked Yan Beifeng. Yan Beifeng had consumed a lot of his own energy to control the 36 postnatal demon gods. At least, Yuan Kongqing could tell that a large portion of his blood essence had been depleted. Therefore, Yuan Kongqing took the opportunity to attack. He ignored those monsters and went straight for Yan Beifeng's body. The 36 postnatal demon gods increased their speed to the maximum as they tried to block his path. However, at that moment, Yuan Kongqing let out a cold snort. How could these man-made monsters possibly block the attack of a martial immortal? As Yuan Kongqing's voice fell, his figure directly turned into invisible and intangible demon qi, floating in the demon realm. I will fuse myself into the demonic Tao laws and my mortal body will temporarily melt away. Let's see just how you will intercept me then. Yan Beifeng sneered and formed a seal with his hands. The 36 postnatal demon gods immediately shone with a blood-colored formation pattern. The 36 Ho-Tian demon gods roared angrily at the sky, drawing upon the power of the stars and combining them into one. In an instant, an incomparably ferocious aura burst forth, turning into a grand formation that enveloped Yuan Kongqing's demon domain. Within the bodies of the postnatal demon gods, there was a Yuan Shen struggling and wailing. They formed a formation, revealing their ferocious might. Blood-red light continuously devoured Yuan Kongqing's demon domain, even forcing him out of it. What the hell is this? The demon god heavenly domain formation doesn't just have demon gods, it also has formations. I've said it before, all of you will die today. Following Yan Beifeng's furious roar, the blood-red light instantly shone brightly, forcing Yuan Kongqing to the center of the formation. He could only barely defend himself. When Chu Xiu got what he wanted and came out of the blissful demon palace, this was the scene he saw. He pulled Shang Tianliang over and asked, "What's going on?" Previously, when he fought his way into the blissful demon palace, Yuan Kongqing still had the upper hand and wanted to kill Yan Beifeng with his demonic hand. How did things end up like this in such a short period of time? Shang Tianliang curled his lips and said, "What else could it be? Someone turned the tables on me. By the way, have you gotten what you wanted? If so, we'll retreat first." It wasn't that Shang Tianliang was a coward, but it didn't feel good to go head-on against a martial immortal. No one would be willing to be beaten up. Chu Xiu narrowed his eyes and shook his head, saying, "Retreat? We can't. We've already destroyed the blissful demon palace. Yan Beifeng and I are already irreconcilable enemies. He's a crazy person, with an extreme personality and mood swings. With such a huge grudge, even if I return to the East region, I'll still be targeted by him. There will be endless troubles in the future. Yi Weikong also has a grudge against me, but Yi Weikong has Cold River City behind him, so he must abide by the rules. But do you think Yan Beifeng cares about the rules? Even if I don't kill him now, I'll have to kill him sooner or later." Leaving a threat for later was still a threat, and Chu Xiu never liked to keep a threat he couldn't control. "How?" Chu Xiu looked at Yan Beifeng and said, "You attack first and test Yan Beifeng's strength. If he really can't fight back, then ignore Yuan Kongqing and kill him directly. If he still has strength left, then think of a way to let Yuan Kongqing escape and attack together." Shang Tianliang's eyes widened. "Why do I have to test him?" Chu Xiu smiled and said, "City Lord Shang, you have rich experience in fighting against enemies and your physical strength is strong. The power of withering and flourishing can change endlessly in your hands, making it easy to obliterate and weaken opponents. Not to mention Yan Beifeng in his current state, even if Yan Beifeng was at his peak, it would not be easy for him to injure you in one blow." Shang Tianliang snorted coldly. Although he knew that Chu Xiu was flattering him, he still attacked first and attacked Yan Beifeng. The power of withering spread out along with the domain, and the flow of power seemed to be stagnant in Shang Tianliang's domain. A punch was thrown out. On the wind of the punch, the power of withering caused all the power within the domain to stagnate. However, with Shang Tianliang's punch, it suddenly exploded. Like a storm whirlpool, the power of that punch was comparable to a martial immortal level expert. Yan Beifeng's eyes revealed a hint of coldness. "Two flies, so annoying. As Yan Beifeng's voice landed, many demon palaces appeared behind him. The silhouette of the demon was trapped within, howling angrily. The powerful sound wave swept across the world, and all the power started to collapse. Even if Shang Tianliang had the power of demon god supporting him and his mortal body was extremely powerful, he still couldn't withstand this sort of attack. Before the fist momentum even arrived, he gave a stuffy cough and was sent flying backwards, clutching his head. At that instant, Chu Xiu moved. Buddhist light encircled his back. As Chu Xiu formed a hand seal, the cross-shaped lotus bloomed. Light purifies, punishes evil. The cross-shaped lotus seal crashed down, and the demon palaces behind Yan Beifeng started to shatter inch by inch. Even the silhouette of the demon was completely torn apart. The current Yan Beifeng was indeed very weak. The 36 postnatal demon gods didn't appear out of thin air. In order to move them, it consumed one's own qi and blood. The demon palaces shattered, and the scorching hot Buddhist light engulfed Yan Beifeng, burning the demonic aura around him. I originally wanted to deal with you after dealing with Yuan Kongcheng. Since you are in such a hurry to die, then I will kill you first. Yan Beifeng formed a hand seal, and the demon gods within the heavenly cycle demon god array suddenly retreated. In an instant, the array expanded, and even enveloped Chu Xiu and Shang Tianliang within it. The dense blood-red light engulfed and melted the power of the cross-shaped lotus seal. In a few breaths' time, the cross-shaped lotus seal had withered. Chu Xiu went to Yuan Kongcheng's side and asked, "What is Yan Beifeng doing? How did he turn the tables around?" Yuan Kongcheng's expression was ugly, madman. Yan Beifeng, this madman, actually combined the primordial spirits of the ferocious beast race and the human race together, and refined the 36 postnatal demon gods. He created such an intolerable thing. Brat, we are both unlucky this time. Everything went smoothly after all these schemes, but we didn't expect Yan Beifeng to have such a trump card. Unlucky? I only know that there is a way. Palace head Yuan, are you sure that these 36 postnatal demon gods are all under Yan Beifeng's control? Yuan Kongcheng said, is there a need to be sure? If Yan Beifeng can't control these things, why would he dare to take them out? Chu Xiu said in a deep voice, Palace head Yuan, if you trust me, then use all your strength to break the array and help me gain more time and attention. Against these things, even a fourth heavenly layer martial immortal like him couldn't do anything. He didn't believe that Chu Xiu could do it. But now, he was in the same boat as Chu Xiu. He believed that Chu Xiu wouldn't court death. So, Yuan Kongcheng suddenly clenched his teeth. Crimson light erupted around him as he burned his blood essence. Boundless blood aura fused into the boundless demonic domain behind him. Heavenly demon descends. In the demonic domain, a huge black shadow appeared. It was like a god or a demon. The power around it was impenetrable. Even the crimson light from the heavenly cycle demon god formation couldn't devour or melt it. The huge demonic shadow's palm descended. This was the true demonic hand that blotted out the sky. Everywhere it passed, the postnatal demon gods were sent flying. Their bodies seemed to be on the verge of collapsing, but the formation stubbornly did not collapse. Yuan Kongcheng's move was also a divine power. It was somewhat similar to Chu Xiu's lawful phenomenon of heaven and earth. But this divine power's consumption was extremely shocking. If it took too long, Yuan Kongcheng wouldn't be able to hold on. At that moment, Shang Tianliang also rushed forward. But with his strength, even if the crimson light from the formation was directed at Yuan Kongcheng, he still wouldn't be able to defeat the postnatal demon gods. Brat, how much longer are you going to wait? Yuan Kongcheng couldn't help but shout at Chu Xiu. He really couldn't hold on for much longer. Almost there, almost there. Seeing that Yan Beifeng had put all his energy into resisting the heavenly demon descends, Chu Xiu finally made his move. The bright moon shone brightly in the sky. Chapter 1239. The advantage of the half-step martial immortal realm was that when facing those in the profound understanding of heaven and earth realm, they would possess overwhelming battle prowess. But for those in the martial immortal realm, there was not much of a difference between half-step martial immortal and profound understanding of heaven and earth realm. Chu Xiu killing a fifth heaven martial immortal as a half-step martial immortal was, in Yuan Kongqing's eyes, a crazy thing to do. But now that they were in a hopeless situation, he had no choice but to take a gamble. But when he saw the boundless demonic aura being torn apart and the bright moon in the sky, he no longer felt that he was crazy. A divine power, so powerful that it made him shudder. What made Yuan Kongqing shudder was not Chu Xiu, but the level of the divine power. It was definitely a powerful divine power that not even the Sky Demon Palace possessed. The clouds parted and the moon shone brightly. On the full moon, Yan Beifeng's figure was reflected. When the sharp radiance descended, Yan Beifeng's body was already torn apart. It was an unstoppable power. Yan Beifeng roared furiously at the sky. His blood essence scattered and started burning rapidly, but he still could not stop the power. In other words, he could not even find a direction to block it. At this moment, Yan Beifeng even made a hand seal and retracted the demon god array of heavenly cycle. The 36 postnatal demon gods surrounded him and the blood-colored light seeped into his body in an attempt to block the attack, but it was still useless. Yan Beifeng's body finally could not withstand it anymore. It gradually started to crack, and with a loud bang, it shattered into pieces. Yuan Kongqing stared at the scene, dumbfounded. The power of Chu Xiu's divine power had surpassed his imagination. It ignored any resistance and could only use the toughness of one's body to withstand it. If one could withstand it, he would live. If he could not, he would die. Chu Xiu let out a long sigh and took a few steps back. Blood seeped out from his body. Chu Xiu didn't want to use the clear sky illuminating shadow under normal circumstances as it consumed too much energy. The last time he had used it against Luo Mo, it had almost caused his body to collapse. This time, Chu Xiu used it because his physical strength had increased by a level. Although it didn't cause his body to collapse, the backlash was not light. At this moment, his entire body felt like it was being sliced into pieces. His bones and flesh were being torn apart. However, right at this moment, Chu Xiu's expression suddenly changed, and he shouted in a low voice, "Oh no!" Yuan Kongqing was taken aback. "What's wrong? Look at the heavenly cycle demon god array. Is it broken?" Hearing Chu Xiu's words, Yuan Kongqing finally reacted. Yan Beifeng was dead, but why was the heavenly cycle demon god formation still around? Just at this moment, within the blood mist that was torn apart by the clear sky reflecting shadow, a golden light bloomed, directly entering the body of a postnatal demon god. It was a terrifying being that had the upper body of a barbarian and the lower body of a spider. Once the golden light surged into its body, the acquired demon god shuddered a few times. The expression on its face twisted, and it looked very similar to Yan Beifeng's. "You destroyed my physical body. Today, I will make you beg for death." The clear sky reflecting shadow destroyed Yan Beifeng's physical body, but failed to destroy his primordial spirit. This divine ability did not have as much damage to the primordial spirit as the physical body. Moreover, there was something strange about Yan Beifeng's primordial spirit. It actually dodged the attack of the clear sky reflecting shadow and fused with the postnatal demon gods he had refined without any obstruction. What do we do? Yuan Kongqing, the martial immortal, subconsciously looked at Chu Xiu. After all, he had been rather aggrieved previously. He was almost killed by Yan Beifeng, and only managed to escape because of Chu Xiu. Moreover, Chu Xiu had also successfully destroyed Yan Beifeng's physical body. Chu Xiu let out a long breath, and said, "There's no other way. Let's go all out. He has possessed the postnatal demon god, and we will slay that postnatal demon god." Now that one of the 36 minor heavenly cycles is gone, I don't believe he can still set up another formation. Yuan Kongqing nodded, and did not dare to continue burning his essence blood. Instead, he used the heaven-shrouding demonic hand, and attacked the postnatal demon god that was hiding Yan Beifeng's primordial spirit. Yan Beifeng's physical body had been destroyed, but it was not completely unaffected by it. These demon gods were connected to his blood, and were driven by the power of his blood. Now that there was no power of blood, the combined power of the formation was greatly reduced. Moreover, when he was outside, he could control these postnatal demon gods as he pleased. But now, he was inside the body of a demon god. He had to control the other demon gods to form a formation, and at the same time defend against Chu Xiu and the others from destroying his physical body. This greatly affected Yan Beifeng's energy. Of course, Chu Xiu's situation was not good either. Yuan Kongqing had burned a large amount of his blood essence to cast the descent of the heavenly demon. Needless to say, Chu Xiu's fleshly body had suffered a backlash. Only Shang Tianliang was slightly better off, but his strength was the weakest, so he could not play a crucial role. Therefore, the battle between the two sides was not as intense as before, but more tragic. "City Lord Shang, help me!" Chu Xiu bellowed. Shang Tianliang immediately rushed forward, and the withering glory domain unfolded around him. The power of time was constantly distorted within the domain, and the speed of the heavenly cycle demon god formation's blood-red light in the withering glory domain slowed down. At the same time, Shang Tianliang gripped the void, and the violent qi of the universe condensed in his hand, and fused into his body. After swallowing and refining the blood of the demon god, Shang Tianliang also had the power of the demon god. In addition, his own martial arts leaned towards the purest form of physical strength. Therefore, when the punch landed, the powerful force shook the void, and actually forced the blood-red light in the heavenly cycle demon god formation to retreat. Seeing this, Yuan Kongqing's Yuan Shen bloomed with golden light, and an arrow of demonic qi merged with the power of his Yuan Shen, and shot towards Yan Beifeng, exploding. The heavenly demon palace was not good at mystic techniques of Yuan Kongqing's Yuan Shen, and under normal circumstances, this attack from Yuan Kongqing would be useless. But at this time, Yan Beifeng had just fused with the body of the demon god, and his Yuan Shen was not stable. Therefore, this arrow caused the opponent's Yuan Shen to tremble, and his body actually stood there in a daze. There was a gap in the heavenly cycle demon god formation for a moment. Taking advantage of this gap, Chu Xiu gathered the last bit of strength in his body, and once again used the cross-shaped lotus seal. Endless Buddha's light smashed down with the blooming cross-shaped lotus seal, and the brilliant Buddha's light suddenly exploded. With a loud bang, the body of the postnatal demon god was finally smashed by Chu Xiu's cross-shaped lotus seal. Only 8 sturdy spider legs were left undamaged, and the rest had already been turned into minced meat. However, before everyone could rejoice, a postnatal fiend celestial that resembled a giant ape laughed viciously. 36 heavenly cycle fiend celestials. Every single one of them was refined by me after a great deal of effort. Every single one of them has the imprint of my soul and is filled with my imprint. They are equivalent to my 36 doppelgangers. You can kill 1 or 2, but can you kill a third, or a fourth? Seeing this, Chu Xiu and Yuan Kongqing's hearts sank. Yan Beifeng was a madman, but at the same time, he was also a genius. Chu Xiu could not help but think of what Elder Gongsun had told him before. The true core of martial arts of the blissful demon palace was never those strange and mysterious techniques, but creation of living beings. Yan Beifeng's actions seemed crazy, but he had already found the true core martial arts of the blissful demon palace. Now that one of the demon gods in the heavenly cycle demon god formation had been destroyed by Chu Xiu, it was indeed impossible to form a formation. The strange blood light had already begun to retract, and was absorbed into the bodies of the postnatal demon gods. But the problem was that Chu Xiao and the others were almost at the end of their rope. Yuan Kongqing had expended a lot of energy, Chu Xiao had used 3 divine powers consecutively, and was unable to fight anymore, and even Shang Tianliang had expended a lot of energy in the series of attacks just now. As for the other martial artists of the Heavenly Demon Palace, they still had some fighting strength, but if ordinary heaven and earth profound understanding martial artists were to interfere in a battle of this level, it was basically no different from sending themselves to death. But at this moment, before Yan Beifeng could make a move, a strong gust of wind suddenly whistled, and with a long cry, it was like a falling meteorite. Yan Beifeng subconsciously looked up. At this moment, his primordial spirit had just shifted, and he had not even spread out his perception. In the next moment, a strong wave of energy suddenly erupted, and the surrounding void even produced a ripple-like texture. A fist appeared in the center of the explosion of energy. A simple punch, but also a punch of extreme strength, landed on the body of Yan Beifeng's demon god. With a loud bang, a third of the demon god's body was directly shattered, and then he was blasted away. It's very hard. The person who came made a sound of surprise, and another punch landed. That giant ape-like demon god's body was only left with half of it. At this moment, Yan Beifeng finally reacted, but at this moment, another punch landed, and an explosion shook the heavens. The giant ape's body was completely shattered. Chen Qingdi. Turning back to look at Chu Xiao, Chen Qingdi laughed and said, I heard from people in the southern region that there was a kid who brought a bunch of a bunch of sects in the southern region to fight against the blissful demon palace, and he was very loud in the name of slaying demons and defending justice. At that time, I felt that that person was most likely you, kid. Other people would not be able to play such dirty, such exciting tricks. After not seeing each other for close to a year, Chen Qingdi did not have a breakthrough, but his power was much more condensed than before. The demon god's body that Yan Beifeng had refined using a secret technique was as hard as a supreme-grade magic weapon. Even though Chu Xiao had killed one, which caused the formation to fail, and the power could not be shared, it was still not something an ordinary person could break. In the end, Chen Qingdi broke one with 3 punches. Chu Xiao looked at Chen Qingdi speechlessly. Chen Qingdi came at the right time, but he did not forget that the reason he became enemies with the blissful demon palace was because of Chen Qingdi's wanderings, and in the end, the karma was placed on him. At this moment, although the demon god's body was broken, Yan Beifeng's primordial spirit escaped again. This time, he possessed an extremely strange demon god that looked like a giant skeleton. With red eyes, he roared angrily, I'll kill you. I'll kill you all. You're tuning into the Unparalleled SwordWill YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.